Radhe Radhe, Dandavat Pranam. Welcome to Shri Radha Bihari Mandir, Shri Vrindavan Dham. Notice there, new Shringar. Srila Gurudeva ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Varga ki jai, Patit Pavana Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Prem Purushottam Shachinandana Gaura Hari ki jai, Radha Bihari Ju ki jai, Radha Ramana Ju ki jai, Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Ram-katha day 4 ki jai. Would it be day 4?
Yeah, today's
Wow. Okay. Dandavat Pranam all Vaishnavas. So today, as we do every day, we will begin with Mangalacarana, the auspicious invocation, calling on the grace, the mercy, the presence, the sidelong glances of our beloved Gurudeva, of our Srila Prabhupada, of all of our Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Varga, of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Sachinandan Gaurahari, Caitanya Mahaprabhu, going all the way back to the original Guru, who is Krishna himself, and his Guru of Prem, Srimati Radhika. Radhikar Prema Guru, Ami Shishya Nata. Krishna said it himself. So we'll be calling on all of them for their mercy. This was actually Ram Navami outfit part 1 or part 2, but somehow we chose the one for Ram Navami and then this one for the second half of Ram Navami. Sudevi made them both, and then we were like, which one? And we chose the red and black one for Ram Navami. So this one is also offered by Devaki and Punya. Okay, so Mangalacharan begins with Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam, page 1 of this beautiful bhajan treasure trove, Shri Gaudiya Gita Gucha. If you don't have it, then just scroll to it happens to be the second or third post in this by Jiva Pavana Prabhu, and you will find the Mangalacharan there. And Chakraji are looking exceptional today, as they do every day, but somehow even more exceptional every time. So if you wait or come back at the end, then we will have close-up darshan. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanditam Tang Sajivam Sadveta Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanditangscha Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayaniti Namine Shri Krishna Leela Katane Sudaksham Odarya Madhurya Gunaishcha Yuktam Varam Varenyam Purusham Mahantam Narayanam Twang Shirashan Namami Tridandinam Bhakta Shiromanim Cha Shri Krishna Padabjidataikahriddi Caitanya Leelamrita Sarasaram Narayanam Tvang Satatam Prapadye Namah Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nittinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Gaurapreshthaya Bhutale Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyana Keshava Yatti Namine Atimartyacharitraya Swashritanancha Paline Jiva Dukhe Sadartaya Shri Nama Premadayine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamine Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Dayitaya Krpabdhaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayine Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Jvala Premadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudhapa Siddhanta Dhvantaharine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambhara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodayo Satchiranandanamine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumestvam Nirdeshtha Sajanapriya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jaganathayate Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krpa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Caitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kantha Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jayatang Surato Pango Mama Mandamater Gati Matsarvasva Padambojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyat Brindaranya Kalpadrumado Srimad Ratnagara Sinhasanastho Shri Shri Radha Srila Govinda Devo Preshthali Sevyamano Smarami Shri Mandra Sarasaramhi Vangshiva Tattatastitaha Karshan Venu Swanair Gopir Gopinatha Shri Estunaha Vrindaye Tulasi Devyai Priyayai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavatyai Namo Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Jaya Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Cheto Darpanamarjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Shvadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Harer Nam Harer Nam Harer Nam Eva Kevalam Kalo Nastyeva 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 Gatiranyatha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Dandavat Pranamal Vaishnavas. I see Krishna Premavati saying, be safe everyone. Isha Thakurani, Rudra Gupta's mother, is still in a very difficult condition. Those who get the infection in their lungs have a very difficult time. So we're offering prayers for her healing. Rudra Gupta's mother is still in a difficult condition. And also prayers for the wife of Isha Thakurani's friend. Her name is Radha Dasi, who left her body yesterday from COVID. Another devotee from Costa Rica also left her body recently from COVID, within 2 or 3 days ago, here in Mathura or Vrindavan. And a lot of devotees are very, very sick also in Mayapur, Navadvip, in so many different mutts, ISKCON, and so many different Gaudiya mutts, and all over India, of course, and in Vrindavan. And it's, well, the news in the world, it shows that it's really, really not good here. So just praying for everyone to be able to weather this as best as possible, and to be able to resume with their seva, with kirtan, with remembering, with serving. It's very, very real. And so I request, especially the devotees who are in India, to be very careful. It is extremely contagious and quite virulent. And those who are outside of India also, please be careful. Just because we are devotees does not mean that we cannot catch or develop any disease. It also doesn't mean that we should be freaked out and afraid and constantly meditating on it as well. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, whatever you are meditating on, you will attain that state. It doesn't mean that you won't attain something if you're not meditating on it. You might not be thinking of a car accident as you're driving down the road, but still it may happen according to one's karma. So, there's no harm wearing a seatbelt. Also, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita very clearly, Manmana, Bhavamad Bhakto, always absorb your mind in thinking of me. Become my devotee, Madhyaji. Worship me, Mam Namaskuru. Offer your pranam to me. And he says, Mam evaishyasi satyam te pratijani priyosine. Whoever is doing this, they are very dear to me. Nowhere in our Shastras do we find the Lord or any of our Vaishnava acharyas, any of our gurus instructing us to concentrate or meditate on the demonic forces. If we are concentrating and meditating on that, when we leave our body, we will attain the result of our absorption. In other words, we may take a body suitable for that contemplation. It's not worth it. Better to always be in the association of devotees, to somehow be able to remember the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord in relationship with His beloved devotees. Then, if anything does happen, as Krishna says very boldly in Bhagavad Gita, Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajantyante kalevaram tam tameva iti kaunteya sadat tad bhava bhavitaha. Whatever state of absorption, bhav, contemplation, obsession one is in at the time of their departure from this world, that state they will attain for certain, without fail. So always best to think of Krishna, as Srila Prabhupada would say, always remember Krishna and never forget Him. In this connection, a question came to me today. What was the question? We have heard that you don't get any negative consequence or karmic reaction for whatever you think in Kali Yuga. So if some bad thought or some bad meaning, any negative thought comes to one's mind, do you get a reaction or not? And so there are so many different considerations on this, and I just want to touch on them clearly because actually quite a lot of devotees have this question, and I also had this question and meditated on it quite a lot over the years. We have heard that in other yugas, you also get a reaction for what you would think. I can't imagine having to get a reaction for what I think or what thoughts cross my mind in this age. Imagine if we had to get a reaction for every thought that crossed our minds. That would be terrible. So this is the nature of Kali Yuga, that our minds are always disturbed. They're running this way and that way, and not only are they running this way and that way, but others are intentionally endeavoring to pull them this way and that way. Even Arjuna told Krishna that to control the mind, it's easier to control the wind or the waves in the ocean, but the mind is very obstinate. Chanchalam hi manak Krishna. My mind is always flickering, going here and there. This is the nature of the mind and thoughts as well. So technically there are no negative consequences for a thought which enters your mind. But then how do you reconcile that with whatever state of contemplation that's in your mind? You will attain that. Then there's definitely a reaction. So one thing is if a thought crosses your mind. And most can relate with this. If any young man or young woman or old man or old woman or whatever it is, or in between, you see any attractive member of, these days it can be any attractive person, and your mind for 1 second, and maybe your heart goes zing, and you get excited about it. If it just enters your mind and then you let it go and don't focus on it or absorb your mind in it, there's no negative reaction to that. But if you see it and then you start contemplating it, while contemplating the objects of the senses, one develops attachment to them. From that attachment comes lust. So this is thinking, feeling, willing. From that, of course, there's the intense absorption which draws one to try to act on their obsession. And of course we know what Krishna says, from that comes frustration, anger, delusion, bewilderment of memory, all intelligence is lost. That's the other side of that coin. And so there is a reaction. If it goes beyond the thought which crosses the mind and starts getting into the feeling stage, really absorbing one's mind on it, contemplating it, obsessing on it, and then from that, one cannot help themselves but to try to manifest it. In reality, that is called the feeling stage. Willing. Thinking, feeling, willing. So then you can say, yes, there is a reaction to the thought. If the thought turns into an obsession or an absorption, then there is definitely a reaction. Also, we know that there is a reaction, a negative reaction. If we see any Vaishnava and we are not happy or content or pleased upon seeing them, especially any pure Vaishnava or sadhu, oh, I'm enjoying my material life, but now they've come, oh, I don't want to see them. I don't want them to see me, I want to avoid them. Then there's some negative consequence. It is also included within the term sadhu ninda, which is included within the first namaparad, sadhu ninda. The first offense to the holy name of the Lord is to be offensive to the pure devotees. And one of those offenses is to not become happy or content upon seeing the devotee, the pure devotee. So then there is also a reaction or a consequence to that thought or to the neglect which comes. So all of these things need to be reconciled in a way. So yes, if a thought comes, we let it go, good. If the thought comes and we absorb ourselves in it, then there will be a reaction. So that is why it is best to always be in the association of sadhus who engage our energy, our time, our minds, our body, our words, our everything in absorption in Krishna as much as possible. And by that, we will be able to fix our minds on Krishna. Oh, Rudragupta just posted, I only saw fixed on Krishna, and then I just realized what our Srila Prabhupada said, and he spoke this in March 1972, because we are not pure. These thoughts of sense gratification are bound to come into our mind. Especially the idle mind becomes the devil's workshop. Now there's a lot of time for the mind to become idle, because there's lockdown. You're stuck in one place. You've got your computer, you've got your television, you've got your mobile phone, and too much time. And if we're not regulated with our sadhana, then for sure Maya will take over. So if we do not act on them and keep ourselves always engaged in Krishna conscious activities, these thoughts of sense gratification which come will have no effect. Maya is always placing the memories of our past sinful activities before us and encouraging us to come once again into her clutches. But by always chanting Hare Krishna and keeping our mind fixed on Krishna, He will give us strength to resist her demands, and gradually they will diminish. Krishna is like the sun, and Maya is like darkness. Where there is sun, what is the question of darkness? What a beautiful letter. Question. I'll try very quickly. Can I reconcile Mahaprabhu being happy with Chota Haridas killing himself after one bad thought? Chota Haridas was a sannyasi. And according to Shastra, the prayashchitta or atonement for a sannyasi who is falling down even within their mind because they're contemplating anything other than the service of Krishna is suicide. That is the atonement. So Mahaprabhu, after taking sannyas, is representing the proper duties of sannyas. Mahaprabhu is also Jagat Guru. He is teaching the entire world and he is Acharya. So for him to show us what is the proper etiquette, Srila Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Maharaj explained that Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he said one thing to Arjuna, but this was grihasta to grihasta. Mahaprabhu is showing sannyas and sannyas. So we should reconcile these things. There are considerations. For one who has accepted the ashram of sannyas, as we heard from our Srila Prabhupada, the qualification should be that one has a pure heart. In other words, they are dead to the material world. So for one who has vomited out all of this thing, all of their attachments and everything of this material world, for that person to then again go and take that, then of course we can apply Krishna's words in this context. For one who has known honor, means they've left it all, then to again eat that thing which you have vomited out, dishonor is worse than death. So Mahaprabhu understood. There are some histories. It wasn't that he just had one bad thought. He was making some endeavor to somehow go to that house. And our Gurudeva explained that it may be that Madhavi had any maidservant that he was connecting to. And maybe the connection, others might not be able to see it, but it just takes one glance. And anyone knows that one glance. And it's like, whoo! Our Gurudev said, he said, don't think I don't know what's going on at Mangalarti time, who's making eyes at who's looking at the back of the temple, trying to see who this brahmachari looking toward that lady. And he said, don't think I don't know what's going on. He said, if any brahmachari is coming to me weeping and crying, oh, I know, what's her name? Like that. Gurudev, I remember him telling him. And we were like, oh, he knows everything. So, it's not that there is no consequence to thoughts. And that needs to be understood clearly. In general, maybe yes, but there are particular circumstances. And apparently in the circumstance of the sannyasi contemplating objects of the senses, there is a consequence. And these days it has become so, I'm going to use the word, we have become so weak that we have seen that our Guru Varga have even given chances again and again to sannyasis who have fallen again and again. Even there was a case when a sannyasi had done so, and it was, how do you say, done the atonement, and Prabhupada was not so pleased with it. Some people will take the words of Shastra, what to do if someone basically takes your wife, and they followed through with it, and Prabhupada was like, no, we can't follow that here and now with the current laws and everything else. We cannot superimpose that onto the current laws and the current culture. Otherwise, it creates massive disturbance in society. So somehow we have to be able to find that balance, but we must always be under the guidance of sadhus. No, Gurudev wasn't trying to remember the maidservant's name. He just said it may be that she had any young maidservant. Madhavi was one of Mahaprabhu's most intimate associates. And she was elderly. But this Chota Haridas was quite young. And he was a sannyasi. And so Gurudev just reconciled for us. Technically, if any sannyasi has maintained attachment to their children from their previous ashram, or to their wife, or to their anything, then this is actually not proper sannyas. This means that I'm still bound in that life. Oh, now my son has had a daughter. I have grandchildren. But I'm here with the danda. This is something which is a clash. You can call it rasabas. It is incompatible. It doesn't make sense. Previously, they used to sign a death certificate. So that's for another time. We do have a lot more to discuss on the consideration of Ram Lila. So I want to continue with the bhajans now. I hope that my answer was sufficient for your question. Achyuta Krishna Das saying that our Srila Prabhupada says in relation to degrees of suffering, a materialistic person is subject to 5 kinds of suffering, represented by pa pa ba bha ma. Parishram, hard work. Fena or foam, represented by ardent endeavor. Ba, vyartha or dissatisfaction, frustration. Bha for bhaya or fear, and ma, mrityu or death. So technically, devotees should not be afraid of anything. They should accept that Krishna is their only protector and maintainer, and they've got nothing to worry about. And one namabhas is sufficient for destroying or, yes, removing millions of diseases of this world. So then we can check our own hearts and see, are we there? Are we chanting namabhas? Are we chanting Shuddhanam? Are we still attached to our families, our wife, our children, our parents, our homes, our stuff, our mobile phones, our cars, our bank accounts, and whatever else? Are we still attached to all of these things? And then we can feel our pulse and then move along carefully on the path. Do we still experience fear? Do we still experience suffering? Do we still experience lamentation? Are we projecting one idea onto the public but still playing with all of the other ideas within ourselves? It means, are we being duplicitous, in other words? So where am I? The truth is the truth. Where am I in relation to the truth? If I have not yet come to that platform of Sharanagati, real Sharanagati, it actually means that I haven't really entered into the path of bhakti, because the symptoms of Sharanagati are the definition of Shraddha or faith. Satya Sharanapati Lakshana. They are the intrinsic symptoms of Shraddha. So where am I on this path? And until we are in that state of spontaneous Raganuga Sadhan Bhajan, then we must follow the rules and regulations of Vaidhi and also of society. And we see examples of this also in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Haridas Thakur would not enter the temple of Jagannath. Neither would Rup and Sanatan, because of the societal standards at that time. So they maintained the societal standards, and yet in their mind and in their hearts completely absorbed their energy in loving service of Krishna. There's so many different considerations. If you want to know more about that, I highly recommend one beautiful book by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur entitled Jaiva Dharma. And in that, there's a discussion about Nitya Dharma, or the eternal Dharma or function of the soul, the Sanatan Dharma, and also Naimittika Dharma, which is the duties that we have in this world. And Bhaktivedanta Thakur is discussing both of these. And until we have actually come to a certain point, we must, it's almost imperative, we must somehow work within the Naimittika Dharma structure. So there's so many different things to consider. And I also recommend the rest of Jaiva Dharma as well. Okay, so now we're going to call out for the mercy of Shri Guru. Samsara davanal lidha loka tranaya karunya ghana ghanatvam. It's in the Sanskrit section. Somewhere around 267. Am I right? No. Ah. 255. Shri Gurvashtakam. Samsar davanal lidha loka Tranaya karunya ghana ghanatvam Samsar davanal lidha loka Tranaya karunya ghana ghanatvam Praptasya kalyana gunarnavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Praptasya kalyana gunarnavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Mahaprabho Kirtan Nritya Gita Vaditramadhyam Manasorasena Mahaprabho Kirtan Nritya Gita Vaditramadhyam Manasorasena Romanchakam Pashrutaranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Romanchakam Pashrutaranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Shri Vigraharadhana Nityanana Shringaratan Mandiramarjanado Shri Vigraharadhana Nityanana Shringaratan Mandiramarjanado Yuktasya bhaktanscha niyujatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Yuktasya bhaktanscha niyujatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Svadhvanatritan Hari Bhakta Sanghan Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Svadhvanatritan Hari Bhakta Sanghan Kritvaiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Kritvaiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Shri Radhika Madhavayoraparo Madhurya Leela Gunarupanamna Shri Radhika Madhavayoraparo Madhurya Leela Gunarupanamna Pratikshanashvadanalolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Pratikshanashvadanalolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Nikunjayumno Rati Keli Siddhyaye Yayali Bhir Yuktir Apekshani Ayuno Ratike Nisidhyaye Yayali Bhiryukti Apekshaniya Tatrati Dakshya Ativallabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Tatrati Dakshya Ativallabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Sakshadharitvena samasta shastre Uktastata bhavyate eva sadhyam Sakshadharitvena samasta shastre Uktastata bhavyate eva sadhyam Kintu prabhurya priya eva tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Kintu prabhurya priya eva tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Yasya prasadad bhagavad prasado Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi Yasya prasadad bhagavad prasado Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi Dhyayam stubam stasya yashastri sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Dhyayam stubam stasya yashastri sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam 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 Gurudeva 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 Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Guru Parampara Guru Parampara Parampara Guru Parampara Guru Parampara Guru Parampara Parampara Guru Parampara Srila Gurudeva ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai, Shri Guru Parampara ki jai. Looks like there's a conversation going on. I don't know what the question was. Oh, I know this question was asked before. that's not showing up. Let's see this one. We will discuss that on Balaram Rasayatra in great detail. One thing I just wanted to clarify as I was singing Sri Guru Bhashtakam, glorifying Sri Guru, I was seeing Srila Gurudev as one should see their Guru when they're calling any bhajan for Sri Guru. And because I had mentioned before that there's the truth and then there's where we're at. And so I want to give a practical example. Because yes, we can read Jaiva Dharma in Nitya and Namitic Dharmas, and that will give us an understanding, but something just to be able to reconcile that. Because of course, the truth is always there. What is the truth? There's an eternal soul, transcendental to all of this, all of the material stuff. It is encased within this body, and in essence, it provides the power for the body to function. Not just the gross body, but the subtle body. There is Bhagavan. He is also eternal and transcendental. He does not have a gross body like we have. He is. He is. He's always eternally transcendental, and he's not covered by his material energy. Being bound in the material energy, Ataiva mayatare deya samsaraduk. The jiva misidentifies with the body and therefore experiences within samsar so much suffering. Samsar duk, in this cycle of repeated birth, disease, old age, and death. So, sometimes as devotees, and I can attest to this growing up as a child of devotee parents, going to Gurukul and being raised in Krishna consciousness, there are some who have the tendency to be a little bit, what do you say, overboard, where there's a complete disconnect from our current state of reality and the pretense of being way beyond my own current level of qualification. And that comes out in the form of complete lack of consideration and complete lack of empathy. In other words, if you're meant to get it, it's not my problem. Good luck. Achoo! You know what I mean? And when you do get it, oh well, Krishna wants to kill you, no one can save you. And if Krishna wants to save you, no one can kill you. It's your karma. For one who is born, death is certain. Good luck. You know what I mean? We might have all seen this. So I just want to give you a practical example. Sri Guru is in touch with the absolute truth constantly. This is the definition of sadhu, who's constantly absorbed in and connected with Bhagavan, with the absolute truth. When I became very sick, when Sudevi became very sick, Srila Gurudev didn't say, well, tough luck. Srila Gurudev sent so many devotees to check on me, to see how I was doing. He sent Brajanath Prabhu, he sent Prem Prayojan Prabhu, he sent Ban Maharaj, that time he was Subal Sakha Prabhu. He sent so many to come and see me. And then when I came in front of Gurudev, he was concerned. How are you maintaining? How are you able to pay for your medicine? You're my guest, I invited you here, so I must take care of you. So he tried to give me money from his own pocket, 200 rupees. You must have spent something. I said, nothing, just a couple hundred rupees. Boom, straight up. He wanted to make sure that I would be taken care of, and also I would take care of myself. That's when I had, I don't know what it was, probably typhoid. Then the next time when I had jaundice, really, really bad. Gurudev said, good, take the time to rest. Make sure you go to a good doctor. Take care of that body. Make sure you get good quality care. He wasn't telling me, it's meant to be. You know, you got it because your immune system is weak. If you just upped your dose of vitamin C, you would have been okay. No, he was really concerned that I would be treated and taken care of well, so that I would heal nice, so that I could continue my seva. when Sudevi caught malaria in 1996. She was in Vrindavan or Mathura. And Gurudev gave an order. If you should come to Govardhan. But we didn't have any doctors there. She was getting care from the doctors in Mathura, one of Gurudev's doctors there. And Gurudev had arranged for it. He said, if you come to Govardhan, you will heal there. You will become better. And I will arrange for the doctor. So we went to Govardhan. We were given a place. She was able to slowly recuperate, and Gurudev arranged for the doctor to come every day from Mathura to check on her status. The doctor would take her on a walk down the way to the main road. He would even have her feed bananas to the monkeys, and he was giving her some treatment. Every day he would come until she regained her strength. So just because Gurudev is aware of the absolute truth, like Krishna told Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, they're already all dead. I just need you to do my bidding. I just want to use you as my tool. And Arjuna witnessed it. He saw the universal form and millions of personalities entering into the mouth of the Supreme Lord. In other words, cycling. All of these bodies finished. And Krishna spoke about the body being different from the soul. Still, our acharyas are showing by their own example. When something comes like this, and you're still within the human condition, you take care of your human condition so that you can do your bhajan. Because shoka marshadi virbhavai. If there's too much distress, too much difficulty, if one is in a state of imbalance due to disease, sickness and everything else, then one cannot do their sadhan. We saw how Sunanda Prabhu, poor boy, he is so attached to chanting his Harinam every day. And what happened? He was so sick he couldn't do it on his beads. And then it was even difficult for him to do it in his mind, although he was trying every day to finish his fixed number. So with all of these things, these difficulties come. It's difficult to do bhajan when one is in a very, compromised state. So our Gurudev, our Guru Varga, they would take care. They would take a lot of care. Look at what our Param Gurudev did for Ananga Mohan Brahmachari. He had tuberculosis. Blood was coming from everywhere. He was so sick he was about to die. Everyone was staying away from him because if you caught TB, it was a death sentence at that time. But our Param Gurudev Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj was taking care of him, cleaning up after his own disciple with so much affection, like a mother for her child. And then our Gurudev told our Param Gurudev, you have so much important work to do, so much seva to do, so much preaching to do. I will take over, knowing that I could die. He knew he could die from this. And yet, he took over this seva because he saw how his Gurudev was nursing this young devotee, Ananga Mohan Brahmachari. So our Gurudev then began doing that seva. And at the very end, as this devotee was leaving his body, the devotee was calling out Radha and Krishna. Oh Radhe, oh Sham, calling the names of Radha and Krishna. You have come, you have come. Gurudev was like, oh my God, he grabbed his feet at that moment. Please remember my name to them. Please remember me to them. Let them know about me. I'm here. So he took that devotee's feet, Ananga Mohan Brahmachari. And Sudevi asked Gurudev, you know, I heard that maybe you caught some TB. And Gurudev responded, we gave our head in the service of our Gurudev. We gave our heads. And she said, but how did you cure it? And Gurudev just went, some little homeopathic. So I just wanted to share this balanced conception, this reconciliation, because I grew up with a heavy-handed, one-side, lack of empathy aspect, and then I saw the affection, the care, the love of my Gurudev, and I know that our Srila Prabhupada also had this. when he would see any disciple who was in such a situation, he was very concerned and would always arrange for proper care to be taken for them. So, this body, as the devotees are saying, is the root of bhajan. Only from this human form can we endeavor for perfection. Only from the human form, not any other form. And human also implies a state of balance. If one is in a state of extreme enjoyment, this is almost like demigod. You can't be in a state of balance at that time. If you have too much high Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, and Shri, and if you're in a state of constant distress and suffering, this is like animal, always looking this way and that way, what's going to attack, always in distress, always in extreme fear. So coming to some kind of balance, taking care so that we can have a steady mind, not too much sleep, not too little sleep, not too much eating, not too little eating, as Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktivedanta Thakur spoke about it in that article, Sadhana. Some kind of balanced state so that we can continue to serve and to endeavor on the path of bhakti. Then we will be utilizing this human form of life properly. Something so that we can always remember Krishna and so that we can never forget Krishna. Okay, now we're going to call for the mercy of Vaishnavas. Here's an example right here. I've got this split on my finger from playing drum. It's dry. It opens up if I don't have tape on it. So a little tape allows me to continue my seva. Means a little care, a little attention. And then and it's not a big deal. It just takes a moment. So there's another practical example right there. Okay. Kabe Sri Caitanya More Kori Bene Doya. And this bhajan is about taking shelter of the Vaishnavas, why we need to take shelter of the Vaishnavas, and how they petition the Lord profusely on our behalf. Page 75. Or if you do not have this beautiful Gaudiya Giti Gucha, you may scroll to the most recent post of Jiva Pavana Prabhu, and there you will find the bhajan along with its translation and frequently followed by beautiful commentaries of our acharyas. So we all have him to thank for that. 75. Kabe Sri Caitanya More Kori Bene Doya by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur. Kabe Sri Caitanya More Kori Bene Doya Kabe Yami Pai Navo Pado Chaya Kabe Sri Caitanya More Kori Bene Doya Kabe Yami Pai Bovaish Navo Pado Chaya Kabe Yami Chari boy Vishaya Bhimano Kabe Yami Chari boy Vishaya Bhimano Kabe Vishnu Jane Yami Koribo Samano Kabe Vishnu Jane Yami Koribo Samano Gala Vastra Kritanjali Vaishnavani Kate Kritanjali Vaishnavani Kate Dante Trina Kori Rara Ivo Nishkapate Dante Trina Kori Rara Ivo Nishkapate Kadiya Kadiya Jana Ivo Dukha Gramo Kadiya Kadiya Jana Ivo Dukha Gramo Samsaro Yanalo Hoite Magibo Vishramo Samsaro Yanalo Hoite Magibo Vishramo Shuniya Yamaro Dukha Vaishnava Thakura Shuniya Amaro Dukha Vaishnava Thakura Amalagi Krishna Ave Diveno Prachura Amalagi Krishna Ave Diveno Prachura Vaishnavero Avedane Krishna Doyamoyo Vaishnavero Avedane Krishna Doyamoyo Eheno Pamaro Prati Kabeno Sadoya Eheno Pamaro Prati Kabeno Sadoya Vinodero Nivedano Vaishnava Charane Vinodero Nivedano Vaishnava Charane Krpa Kori Sangye Loho Eya Kinchane Krpa Kori Sangye Loho Eya Kinchane Kabe Sri Caitanya More Koribe no Doya Kabe Sri Caitanya More Koribe no Doya Kabe Ami Paibo Vaishnavo Pado Chaya Kabe Ami Paibo Vaishnavo Pado Chaya Vaishnava Thakur Jai Vaishnava Thakur Vaishnava Thakur Jai Vaishnava Thakur Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Vaishnava Thakur Vaishnava Thakur Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Prabhu Krpa Koro More Doya Koro Prabhu Krpa Koro More Doya Koro Prabhu Krpa Koro More Doya Koro Prabhu Krpa Koro More Doya Koro. All Vaishnava Thakurs ki Jai. Before you leave, Devaki, did you see? We will put pictures up, but this outfit, this shringar, was also provided by Devaki and Punya. Two were made on Ram Navami, or for Ram Navami, and this was the other one. I think this one was made first, I'm not sure, but both of them were made by the kind affection of Devaki and Punya for Radha Vinobihari and Sachinandan Gaurahari and the babies. So, thank you. Now we're going to call for the mercy of Rupa Goswami and the other Goswamis, the 6 Goswamis, in the form of the beautiful prayer, Shri Nam Kirtan Hari Haraye Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namah. Page 148, or whatever Jiva Pavana Prabhu posts. Also there's the Gaudiya Kirtan app, which is hard to be on at the same time as this, unless you have a second media device. By Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Haraye Namah Krishna Yadavai Namah. Haraye Namah Krishna Yadavai Namah. Yadavai Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah. Gopala Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Gopala Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinata Madana Mohan. Giridhari Gopinata Madana Mohan. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gopta. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gopta. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghuna. Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghuna. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghuna. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghuna. Echai Goshair Kori Charana Bandhan. Echai Goshair Kori Charana Bandhan. Jaha hoite Vignanash Abhishta Puran. Jaha hoite Vignanash Abhishta Puran. Echai Goshai Jar Muitaro Das. Echai Goshai Jar Muitaro Das. Tasavar Padarinu Mora Panchagras. Tasavar Padarinu Mora Panchagras. Tadera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sane Vas. Tadera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sane Vas. Janame Janame Hoy Ei Abhilash. Janame Janame Hoy Ei Abhilash. Echai Goshai Jabe Brajai Koilavas. Echai Goshai Jabe Brajai Koilavas. Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash. Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majjai Amon. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majjai Amon. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pada Padma Kori Ash. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pada Padma Kori Ash. नाम संकीर्तन को हे नरोत्तम दास, नाम संकीर्तन को हे नरोत्तम दास। हरे हराये नमो कृष्ण यादवाय नमः, हराये नमो कृष्ण यादवाय नमः, यादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः, यादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः। गोपाल गोविंद राम श्री मधुसूदन, गोपाल गोविंद राम श्री मधुसूदन, गिरिधारी गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन, गिरिधारी गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन। श्री रूप श्री सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ, श्री रूप श्री सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ, श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ, श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ। जय रूप गोस्वामी प्रभु रूप गोस्वामी, रूप गोस्वामी प्रभु रूप गोस्वामी प्रभु, रूप गोस्वामी प्रभु रूप गोस्वामी, रूप गोस्वामी प्रभु रूप गोस्वामी। जय रूप रघुनाथ, रूप रघुनाथ, रूप रघुनाथ जय रूप रघुनाथ, जय रूप रघुनाथ, रूप रघुनाथ, रूप रघुनाथ जय रूप रघुनाथ। श्री रूप गोस्वामी पाद की जय, श्री सद गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय, रूपानुग गौरी गुरुवर्ग की जय। देवादि देव गौरचंद्र गौरीदास मंदिरे। Calling out for the mercy of Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Sachinandan Gaurahari, page 85. Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Devadi Deva Gaurachandra Gauridasa Mandire, Devadi Deva Gaurachandra Gauridasa Mandire, Nityananda Sange Gaura Ambika Devi Hare Nityananda Sange Gaura Ambika Devi Hare Devadi Deva Gaurachandra Gauridasa Mandire Devadi Deva Gaurachandra Gauridasa Mandire Charu Aruna Gunjaharu Ritkamale Jedhare Charu Aruna Gunjaharu Ritkamale Jedhare Virinchi Sevyo Padopadno Lakshmi Sevyo Sadore Virinchi Sevyo Padopadno Lakshmi Sevyo Sadore Devadi Deva Gaurachandra Gauridasa Mandire Devadi Deva Gaurachandra Gauridasa Mandire Tapta Hema Anga Kanti Pratoyarunayambare Tapta Hema Anga Kanti Pratoyarunayambare Radhikanurago Premo Bhaktivancha Je Pare Radhikanurago Premo Bhaktivancha Je Pare Devadi Deva Gaurachandra Gauridasa Mandire Devadi Deva Gaurachandra Gauridasa Mandire Shachi Suta Gaurachandra Anandito Yantare Shachi Suta Gaurachandra Anandito Yantare Pashanda Khanda Nityananda Sange Range Vihare Pashanda Khanda Nityananda Sange Range Vihare Devadi Deva Gaurachandra Gauridasa Chandra Gauridasa Mandire Jaya Nitai Jaya Gaur Jaya Nitai Jaya Gaur Jaya Nitai Jaya Gaur Jaya Nitai Jaya Gaur O Nitai He Gaur He Nitai He Gaur He Nitai He Gaur He Nitai He Gaur He पतित पावन श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम शचिनंदन गौर हरि की जय Yamuna Puline Kadamba Kanane Kiherinu Saki Aj, page 130 by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur. Yamuna Puline Kadamba Kanone Kiherinu Saki Ajo O Yamuna Puline Kadamba Kanone Kiherinu Saki Ajo Shyama Bangshi Dhari Mani Vancha Pari Shyama Bangshi Dhari Mani Vancha Pari Kare Lila Rasorajo O Kare Lila Rasorajo Krishna Keni Shudha Prashravano Ashtadala Pari Shri Radha Shri Hari Ashtadala Pari Shri Radha Shri Hari Ashtasakhi Parijana Ashtasakhi Parijana Sugirtanaratane Sabasakhi Gane খুশিছে যুগল ধনে সুগীত নর্তনে সব সখী গণে খুশিছে যুগল ধনে কৃষ্ণ লীলা হেরি প্রকৃতি সুন্দরী কৃষ্ণ লীলা হেরি প্রকৃতি সুন্দরী বিস্তারি ছে শোভা বনে বিস্তারি ছে শোভা বনে কৃষ্ণ লীলা হেরি প্রকৃতি সুন্দরী বিস্তারি ছে শোভা বনে বিস্তারি ছে শোভা বনে ঘরে না যাইব বনে প্রবেশিব ও লীলার সের তরে ঘরে না যাইব বনে প্রবেশিব ও লীলার সের তরে ত্যজি কুল লাজ ভজ ব্রজরাজ ত্যজি কুল লাজ ভজ ব্রজরাজ বিনোদ মিনতি করে বিনোদ মিনতি করে ও যমুনা পুলিনে কদম্ব কাননে তিহেরিনু সখী আজ ও যমুনা পুলিনে কদম্ব কাননে তিহেরিনু সখী আজ শ্যাম বংশীধারী মণিমঞ্চ পরি শ্যাম বংশীধারী মণিমঞ্চ পরি করে লীলা রসরাজ করে লীলা রসরাজ করে লীলা রসরাজ করে লীলা রসরাজ কৃষ্ণ হে 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 ও কৃষ্ণ হে 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 Shri Krishna Kanhaiya Lal ki jai. Oh Sakhi, what have I seen today? In a Kadamba grove on the banks of the Yamuna, a beautiful blackish flute player, seated upon a jeweled platform, is performing his pastimes as the king of all rasa. The amorous pastimes of Sri Krishna are just like a waterfall of nectar. Situated upon the 8 petals of the jeweled throne are Sri Radha and Sri Hari, surrounded by their attendants, the 8 principal Sakhis. By singing sweet songs and dancing gracefully, all of the Sakhis satisfy their treasured divine couple. Beholding Krishna's pastimes, the beautiful spiritual energy expands the splendor of the Vrindavan forest. To relish the nectar of such pastimes, I will not go home, but will enter the forest instead, renouncing all shyness due to fear of family and society. Just worship the king of Braj. This is the humble entreaty of Bhaktivedanta. And now we will call for the mercy of Vrishabhara Nandini Srimati Radha Thakurani. Where is it? One second. The other day, the father of Vishnu Prabhu Tamal Krishna Das, he's a disciple of our Srila Gurudeva. He passed away from this world. One thing Vishnu Prabhu said, he said he was always chanting. Even though his hands were crippled, he was still always trying to complete his Harinam, and without fail daily he would sing 2 Ashtakams. We're only going to sing one today. One was Nandananda Ashtakam, and the other was Radha Krpa Kataksha Stavaraja. Starting with Munindra Vrinda Vandite, page 285. But he would sing them every day. And I thought, how beautiful is that? Srila Gurudeva also recommended that we should sing these every day. And I don't know about for you, but definitely when I sing these ashtakams, I cannot separate them from Gurudeva. I see him sitting there year after year during Kartik and also in other festivals, sitting there in front of him, singing these ashtakams. So it's very closely connected with him. So page 285, it says, spoken by Shiva in the Urdhvamnaya Tantra. Our Gurudev explained, it must be that he heard it as Harikatha, overheard it from Sri Rupa in the form of Gopishwar Mahadev. And now he's repeating it and telling to Uma, his consort, the glories of Srimati Radhika. Thank you, Rudra Prabhu. I do remember reading that, I just wasn't sure where. Is it on? Oh, sorry. And we will sing it together. Has Jiva Pavana Prabhu posted? Yes. I don't know if I said Vrishabhanu Nandini Thakuran, but I've definitely said Isha Thakuran. ठीक है. Munindra Vrindavandite Triloka Shokaharini Prasanna Vakra Pankaje Nikunja Bhuvilasi Prajendra Bhanu Nandini Prajendra Sunu Sangate Kadakarishyasi Hama Krpa Kataksha Bhajanam Ashoka Vriksha Vallari Vitanam stite pravalo valo pallava prabharunangri komale parabhaya spurat kare prabhuta sampadalaye kada karishasi hamam Krpa Kataksha bhajanam anangaranga mangala prasanga bhangura dhruvam sabe brahman sasambramam driganta vanapatane nirantaram vashikritta pratitinanda nandane kadakarisha sihamam kripa kataksha bhajan talit suvarna champaka pradipta gora vigrahe mukha prabha parashtakopi sharadindu mandane vichitra chitra sancharach chakora shavalochane kadakarishyasi hamam kripa kataksha bhajanam madonmadati yovane pramodamana mandite priyanuragoranjite kalavilasa pandite ananya dhanya kunjaraja kamoke nikovide kadakarishasi hamam kripa kataksha bhajanam ashesha hava bhavadhiro hiro hara bhushite prabhuta shato kumbha kumbha kumbhi kumbha shustani prashastamanda hasya churna purna sokya sagare kadakarishyasi hamam kripa kataksha bhajanam mridallavallari tarangarangajornate latagralasya lolanila lochanavalokanī lallallulan nilan manogya mugdha mohanashrite kadakarishyasi hamam kripa kataksha bhajanam suvarnamalikan chitta trirekhakam bhukanthage trisutramangvali guna triratna dipti vidhiti salolanila kuntala prasuna gucha gumpithe kadakarishyasi hamam kripa kataksha bhajanam nitam bimba lambamano pushpamekhala gune prashastaratra kinkini kalapa madhyamanjule karindra shunda Dandika Baroha Shobhagoruke Kadakarisha Sihamam Krpa Kataksha Bhajanam Aneka Mantra Nadamanju Nupuraravaskhalat Samajorajo Hangsavangsha Nikmanati Gauravi Bilola Hemavallari Vidambi Charu Chankrame Kadakarisha Sihamam Krpa Kataksha Bhajanam Ananta Koti Vishnu Loka Namra Padmajarachite Himadrija Pulo Maja Virincha Javara Prade Aparasi Bhiri Bhididda Satpadanguli Nakhe Kadakarishyasi Hama Krpa Kataksha Bhajanam Mateshwari Priyeshwari Swadheshwari Sureshwari Triveda Bharatishwari Pramano Shasaneshwari Rameshwari Shameshwari Pramodakanoneshwari Vrajeshwari Vrajabhipe Shri Radhike Namostute Iti Mamadbhutam Stavam Nishamya Bhanunandini Karotu Santatam Janam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Bhavet Tadaiva Sanchita Trirupa Karmanashanam Bhavet Tada Brajendra Sunu Mandala Praveshanam Kadakarisha Sihama Krpa Kataksha Bhajanam Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Vrishabhanandani Srimati Radhika Thakurani ki Jai Shri Krishna Kanhaiya Lal ki Jai. And now we have come to that special part of the evening, or for you morning, where we will be calling with the most powerful mantra, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is actually non-different from Radha and Krishna and Sachinandan Gaurahari, praying for their mercy. O Radha, O Krishna, please engage me in your loving service. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaur Hari Bol, 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 Hari Bol. Gurudeva, 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 Gurudeva. Oh Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Shri Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Srila Gurudeva ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Rupananga Gauri Guru Varga ki Jai, Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki Jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaye Namo Namah. Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Nityanamine. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Krpa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate giring. Yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Gurung Dinatarinam. First of all, we offer our Dandavat Pranam thousands of times in the dust of the lotus feet of our beloved Gurudev. Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Ashto Tarshata Shri Srimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. In the same thousands of Dandavat Pranam in the dust of the lotus feet of Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Ashto Tarshata Shri Srimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And to all of our Rupanuga, Gauriya, Guru Varga. And to all Vaishnavas past, present and future, including all of you who are present with us today, we offer our Dandavat Pranam. Sudevi.
Dandavat Pranam, dear Vaishnavas. Radhe, Radhe, Radhe Shyam.
Radhe Shyam. She was absorbed.
Just in that moment.
Our Srila Gurudev used to tell of that one disciple Actually, this was quite funny. We were in Sri Keshavaji Gaudiya Math in Mathura, and Gurudev had spoken in Hindi, and he had a translator. And that translator was translating what Gurudev was saying, but he didn't understand Hindi very well. So Gurudev was trying to tell us about this person who was so focused on sharpening the arrows. And someone came and said, "Did you notice which way the wedding party went?" He said, "What wedding party?" "A big wedding party just came by. You didn't." And he was so focused he didn't see. So the word was tir. But the translator thought Gurudev said kir. So he's saying, so the man was making kir. And Gurudev and everyone was looking at him like, what? What did you say? He's like, he was making kir. And Gurudev's like, no. He was sharpening the arrow. He was so focused, so exclusively one-pointed that he didn't know of what was going on around him. And so we should also be like that with our bhakti, deeply absorbed. So, today we will continue with the beautiful pastimes of the amazing, handsome, heroic, gorgeous, the embodiment of, the personification of Maryada Purushottam, Sri Ramachandra, this beautiful manifestation of Krishna, Keshava Dhrita, Rama Sharira, Jai Jagadisha Hare. So we will continue with remembering his glories and these pastimes with his devotees, those pastimes which, although having taken place in the 7th Manvantar, we're very far past that now, but still to this day, strike awesomeness, awe, fear, terror, happiness, and extreme sadness in the hearts and minds of all of those who hear it. So the Lord performs pastimes in such a way that we can be fully absorbed in those pastimes, in such a way that we don't need to be fully absorbed in all of the pastimes of this material world, including our own. By mind, by heart, as Mahaprabhu told Raghunath Das Goswami, Braje Radha Krishna Manasa Seva Koribe. Always within your mind, within your heart, meditate on the sweet pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So another pastime of theirs is the pastime of Sri Ram and Sita. So we will continue from where we left off yesterday. Okay, so I am now calling Sudevi forward to continue with this beautiful Sri Ram-katha. You want to put the mic on you? Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I can do it.
Okay.
Dandavat Pranama Vaishnavas. So, Radhe Sham. So, I would like to begin. First of all, one devotee, Gita, she asked a question and she said, on the post she asked something about Shabari. And she said that isn't the fact that Ram and Lakshman let her wash their feet, isn't that like against Maryada? And so I went back and I wanted to make sure that I read it properly, and I did. It said that she washed their feet. And then Kishori Mohan Prabhu was searching in different places, and he found from an kind of unauthorized Tulsidas, it was from Ramcharita-manas, wasn't it?
I'm not exactly sure, but yes.
I'm saying it's unauthorized because it says that she was biting the... Actually, in Tulsidas's Ramayana, it doesn't say she was biting it, and it also doesn't in the Ramayana. But anyway, it said that she washed their feet with her tears. So I thought that was quite beautiful. In either way, as our Gurudev would say, why do we offer water to Radha and Krishna during Arti? And he said, because we want to really offer our tears. But because we've given our tears to so many mundane things in this world, we have no tears left. So we take shelter of that water in that conch. And with Tulsi, we offer it to Krishna in the name of my tears, I'm offering this water to you. And Gurudeva would say, Krishna is so deep-hearted, he will understand everything. So in the same way, I thought that was very beautiful, whether it was water from the river or whether it was water from her own eyes because of her heart melting. Either way, she was offering her tears. So, and the other thing, I need to start again.
So is it considered opposed to Maryada? That was the question.
Well,
proper etiquette or rules.
I mean, I haven't read from our acharyas this, but the fact is that it's not like they're sannyasis. They're kshatriyas and they're also palace holders. And also, it is the custom when you have a guest that comes to your home. Even now, we had a friend who was in Navadvip, and he was on a rickshaw, and the rickshaw driver kept begging him, come to my house, come to my house. And he felt kind of like shy. I don't know if I want to go to their house. But anyway, finally, he went to the house. And he said it was so shocking. They were, you know, in Navadvip, very, very simple. But he said they treated me like a king. And he said they offered me a place to sit. The wife immediately ran. He wasn't like expected. The wife immediately ran, got everything for washing his feet, for doing arti to him. And they did that. The husband and wife, they washed his feet, they did arti, they fed him. This is still something, there's a remnant of this kind of culture that is still left, especially in the villages. Even when we're walking around Braj Mandal, sometimes when we would go on parikrama, we would find that when we would Sanket, when we would walk away from the parikrama, you know, sometimes the talking would go on for a long time. And so we would wander around and just look at everything. And you would see the Brajvasis, they would say, "Ao kanakao, come eat, come eat." And then we would just go sit down, they would have you sit on a cot or something, and they would make rotis fresh, or rota, very thick, really fresh. And then they would put some of their sabji on it and give it, or they would give it with chach, which is buttermilk, and some pickle or some gur. And butter, fresh butter. And they would feed you their lunch. They would sit down and take prasad and have you eat. So something of this culture still exists. So I'm only going to give that as the response. Maybe Kishori?
Also, Matanga Rishi told her, it's her Gurudev. He said, I'm too old, I won't be able to remain in this world, but you will be able to be here and have darshan of Sri Rama. So she wanted to leave the world when Matanga Rishi left at that time. Like she couldn't handle the idea of her heart being broken by the disappearance of her Gurudev, but he instructed her, you stay and you will have direct darshan of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is manifesting in the form of Sri Rama, and he will come to your place. And so every day with great expectation she would prepare for him and wait for him. She knew he was the Supreme Lord. So there is no breaking of Maryada at all. And he also knows I'm the Supreme Lord. Sometimes he forgets, but most of the time he knows that he is Bhagavan.
Yes. Also, it is said that she had actually reached perfection, and they kept sending a chariot to bring her to her destination, and she kept rejecting it. No, Ram is coming, I'm waiting for Ram. She tells this story also, I've been waiting for you, because Ram asks her, how are you? How is your sadhan? How have you been maintaining? And then she explains that her guru told her that he was coming, and that she would reject the heavenly planets or wherever her perfection was, and she would say, I'm waiting for Ram. And so after she had darshan of Ram and got to offer those fruits to him, and she got the fruit of her bhajan and her life of seva, which is darshan of Ram, then she left.
Also in this is a very, very powerful lesson. That we should have that same kind of hope, expectation, and preparedness. We must always be endeavoring to prepare our heart that Krishna might come. Like, who was it? Bhakti Vallabh Tirtha Maharaj, when he was chanting his Harinam. On each feed he was thinking, Krishna will appear in this mantra. He will definitely appear. And then he wouldn't appear, or he would say he didn't appear, oh, maybe he will appear in the next mantra. Something must have delayed him. And with that same hope and expectation, he would go to the next mantra. We must also have that kind of eagerness and anticipation. I know sometimes I would be waiting for something or someone. You know, you're expecting a parcel from Amazon, and you keep looking out the window checking, when is it coming, when is it coming? And then I would think, you know, if I only had 1/1000th of even that kind of hope and anticipation for Krishna to manifest while I am chanting his names.
Yes.
You know, but we have so much hope and expectation for so many other things.
It's true. In 1997, I didn't make it for Kartik that year. It's the only year that I missed till 2010, and then I missed 1 year after that. Anyway, the point is that in 1997, because I missed Kartik and I was missing Gurudev, I wrote Gurudev a letter, and I was expecting any day a letter to come from him. And I would always be running. Whenever the mailman would come, I would run and I would be so disappointed. Oh, I didn't get a message from Gurudev. Nothing came, nothing came. And then finally, one day a letter came, a handwritten letter came. And he said, I know that every day you were checking your heart mail, expecting a letter from me. I'm sorry I took so long. And then he explained how parikrama was, and it was just extraordinary. But I had that kind of utsaha, that kind of enthusiasm that I would wait, and I would run out, and did he come? No. Does he remember me? Did he get my letter? All these things would go through my head constantly until the next day. So even that, expecting one little morsel like that, always eager, always hopeful. Yes. So I made a mistake yesterday, and I'd like to begin today with correcting this mistake. I do make a lot of mistakes, so please forgive me. This one was that I had said that Shabari had told Ram and Lakshman where to go to Sugriva. This is wrong, wrong, and wrong. It wasn't Shabari.
One of the good things about being a conditioned soul is that you can admit that you make mistakes.
I'm so conditioned. Anyway, so this was wrong. Actually, so he met with Shabari and she left. So then it's within the same vicinity, pretty close, because Matangarishi was her guru, and not far from there is where Sugriva was. So anyway, and I'll explain that. If that doesn't make sense to you, I'll explain it after. But there was one Rakshash, and this Rakshash was really, really horrific looking. He had really extraordinary long arms. I guess it was something like 80 yojans. I don't know, something really extraordinary. And he didn't have a head, or legs or feet. He was just like this huge stump. He had one eye and a huge mouth. And he had these huge long arms that he would grab everything and take it in. And the reason was he was cursed. Anyway, it's a long story. So he was cursed to have a body like this. Indra cursed him, and also I think, anyway, he was cursed. Let's just leave it at that. So when Ram and Lakshman came into that vicinity, they didn't see this Rakshasha at first. By the time they saw him, he had already had his arms extended, and there was no way for Ram and Lakshman to run from that. So this monster Rakshasha grabbed them and was pulling them toward his huge cave-like mouth. And at that time, Ram and Lakshman were speaking to each other like, oh no, we should give up. And Lakshman's like, no, we're going to fight this. And they were just having a whole conversation as they were being brought toward his mouth. At that time, Ram and Lakshman decided, we have to save Sita. We can't get eaten by this horrible demon. So Ram told Lakshman, cut his arm off. So they each cut one of his arms off. And therefore, he couldn't really do anything. And so he stopped, kind of stunned. And Kabanda was like, who?
That's his name.
Kabanda.
Yes, his name was Kabanda.
Sorry, I didn't say that?
No.
Oh, Kabanda. He said, who are you? That you are so extraordinary. You were able to do this to me. And at that time, Ram and Lakshman very beautifully told their whole story. And it's really amazing. It's like they have no envy or hate to anyone. Even though this horrible creature just tried to kill them and eat them, when he said, "Who are you?" they actually gave them time.
They gave him an explanation.
Yes, they gave him an explanation where Ram and Lakshman, Dasarath is our father, Sita was stolen. And they asked him, "Who are you?" And he said, "Oh, I was actually a Gandharva, and I was cursed. I was doing all kinds of things, making all kinds of havoc. So I was cursed to have a body like this." He would actually irritate the rishis. So then he said, "I was told that Ram and Lakshman would come, and once I was killed, I would again assume my Gandharva form." So he asked Ram and Lakshman to build a funeral pyre, actually kind of to bury him and put him on fire. And Ram and Lakshman were like, "Yeah, absolutely, we'll do this." But then Ram said, "Can you help me? I'm looking for my wife Sita. She was taken somewhere by a Rakshasa, and we're looking for her." And he said, "I saw something." And he said, "But please, first rid me of this body, because my intelligence isn't fully intact. I have the intelligence of a demon now." He said, "Once I have my Gandharva body back, I will be able to tell you with full intelligence everything you need to know."
Wow.
So they immediately killed him and burnt him, and this beautiful Gandharva form came out. He was so glorious and handsome, and a chariot from the heavens arrived to bring him. And then he offered his pranam to Ram and Lakshman, and he said, he said, "I saw one Rakshasa," and he believed it was Ravan, taking Sita toward the south with him. And then he was the one who told them that Sugriva will help you. He began to explain different kinds of diplomacy to Ram, and one of them was, if you meet someone who's powerful and they have some of the same situation as you, you can easily win them over. So this was one of the things that Ram understood that he had in common with Sugriva. So anyway, this is my rectification of what I messed up last night.
Right, you had said that Shabari
Shabari,
told them to
yes.
go to Sugriva, but it was Kabanda.
It was Kabanda, once he was
What's
a
his
Gandharva.
Gandharva name?
So now we remember, if you can remember, last night Hanumanji came, and he came in the guise of a Brahmin. Came in the guise of a Brahmin, and he astonishingly remembered that I am the eternal servant of Ram, and Ram also recognized him. And so then he went to Sugriva, and they formed a friendship. First, by holding hands, Sugriva reached his hand out, and he said, "Please accept this as my love and my like forever friendship." And Ram accepted his hand, and Hanumanji built a small yagya where they made promises over the fire, in front of the fire, and they circumambulated it to bind that friendship. So after this happened, they sat down, and Ram began to ask Sugriva, "So please tell me your history. Please tell me everything about you." So at that time, Sugriva began to tell Ram about his history, what happened to him, why he was living in this mountain cave. He said, "I am the younger brother of Vali. He's a very, very powerful warrior, and he is my elder brother. When our father died, he became king. At some point, there was a sort of feud over a woman between my brother Vali and the demon, or the demigod. I think it was the demigod. No, was it a demon? Maya. What's the name?
Maya Danava?
Mayavi.
I don't know.
I wrote it down. Mayavi. And so Mayavi came out in the middle of the night and challenged Vali Maharaj. So Vali came out ready to fight, and Mayavi ran from him, and Vali was chasing him. At that time, Sugriva being his younger brother, also his shadow, and his sevak was going with him to try to fight and protect him. Mayavi went into this huge mountain cave that was very dark, and Vali said to Sugriva, I'm going in there. If within 15 days I don't come out, then you should know that I have been killed by the demon. And so Sugriva began to wait outside the cave. He's telling Ram that after 1 month went by, even more than 15 days, I had waited. 1 month went by, and I heard horrible sounds of so many screams. And he said, and after a few minutes, I saw what seemed like, not a pool, like a flood coming out of foam and blood. He said, at that time, I really thought that my brother had died. And so I took a huge boulder and I put it in front of the cave. I sealed the cave with it so that the demons couldn't get out. When I went back to Kishkinda.
Where's Kishkinda? You lost your mic.
Will it work if I just have it sitting down?
It's far. You should put it in the center there. Yeah. No, the other way. Up. Or you have to turn the mic up toward your mouth. Yeah.
I'm kind of loud.
There you go.
Kishkinda is the kingdom, the realm of Vali. And it's the realm of the Vanavas, of the Vanaras, the sort of half man, half monkeys. And they're very intelligent. If you read about them, they're not like regular monkeys. They know everything. They have some monkey-like traits, but actually they're very, very knowledgeable. They're grave. They're Siddha yogis, actually demigods, and who is Hanumanji, manifestation of Lord Shiva. So they're not ordinary. So they had this beautiful kingdom. And at that time, Sugriva's telling Ram, I went back to the kingdom. And going back, the minister saw that there was no one in charge. It should be me. So they crowned me as king. He said, after some time, I don't remember how long, but after some time, Vali Maharaj came back. He said, my brother saw me. I was so surprised. I jumped off the throne. I took the crown off and I offered it to him. I was so happy to see him. But he wouldn't forgive me. He began to accuse me of wanting him dead. So he beat me. And he basically threw me out of the city. He stole my wife from me. And he said, and he chased me all over the world. He explained to Ram that he was in that particular place because there was a curse there. Should I tell it? It's
what the place where Sugriva was. He was in a special place. You don't have to go into detail.
Mantanga cursed Vali Maharaj because some blood of a demon spilled on him and in his ashram. So he said that Vali Maharaj wouldn't be able to come.
Who's Vali?
Vali, well, he was the king. But it reminds you of Bali Maharaj?
Yes.
Okay, Vali was not able to come there. So there was a curse. This is why this was the only place where Sugriva was safe. So he ran there and had been there ever since. And Sugriva is explaining to Ram that so often he sends warriors to come and try and kill me. So when you arrived, I thought you were people that were trying to kill me. So then Ram, he said, your sorrow is my sorrow. I also accept this as my own, and I vow to you, I will help you get your kingdom back, and I will help you get your wife back. Ram understood this. Sugriva's wife was stolen, so he was very upset hearing it. Ram also told his whole history and what happened. So then Sugriva wasn't sure that Ram could actually kill Vali, so he tested him. And then after the test, Sugriva was so happy. He thought, yes, I know you will be able to do this. So immediately, Ram, Sugriva, and Hanuman and the 3 other messengers or ministers went, and Sugriva challenged Vali to a fight. At that time, Ram was waiting and hiding, ready to try to kill Vali. As Sugriva was fighting with him, he was being beaten so badly. and Ram didn't kill him. Finally, Sugriva ran away and came back to that mountain and hid. Ram went after him, and Sugriva was so upset. I thought you were going to help me. I thought you were my friend. And Ram said, you both are almost so exactly alike. I couldn't tell the difference between you two. And I was afraid who I would shoot. I didn't know who was who. So they placed a garland on him, on Sugriva, and said, go back and challenge him. And now I will be able to see who is who. So immediately he went back and he challenged Vali again. At that time, Vali's wife Tara told him, don't go out. There is Ram and Lakshman out there. Not only that, something is going to happen. How can he have this kind of courage to challenge you after all this time?
You're saying Sugriva's wife is Tara?
No.
He was Vali's wife. She was Vali's
She's
wife.
Vali's wife. Sugriva's wife is Ruma.
Okay.
Tara is the wife of Vali.
Okay.
But does become the wife of Sugriva. So, anyhow, now where was I?
So she told him, don't go out, it's dangerous for you. Tara was telling Vali.
Vali was like, oh, I have no problem with Ram and Lakshman, they're dharmic, don't worry about it. He went out and started fighting with Sugriva. Finally, Ram took his arrow and he shot, and it went into the heart of Vali. He fell on the ground and he was so shocked and upset. He saw Ram came out. Ram was hiding behind a tree. And he started to, like, not abuse, but he was like, how could you do this? I thought you were dharmic. I thought you were a great personality. Not only have you made me your enemy for no reason, you shot me like a coward behind the tree. Ram came out and he said, you don't really know anything about dharma. So he began to teach him. He said, first of all, my brother Bharat is in charge of all of the realm. My dynasty is the Sun dynasty, and everything is under our protection. He said, you have done something that is so sinful. He said, a younger brother's wife, the wife of, I don't remember, but and your own daughter. Right. He said, these are all the same. So basically, you took your daughter and were using her for your pleasure. He said, according to Dharma, you should be killed for this. This is in Treta Yuga. I'm not saying that anyone in Kali Yuga who does this or has done this should be killed. I think it's very bad. But we have to be careful to not take the law into our own hands. We know somebody that did that.
Yeah, I referenced it earlier.
So we have to be careful that we follow the law. So anyway, but back then, Ram is telling him, this is the law, that you should be killed for this. So immediately Sugriva, it was like his consciousness.
Vali.
Oh, Vali, his consciousness became completely pure, and he understood who Ram was, and he begged forgiveness. Forgive me for not recognizing you. You are right, I accept it. So then at that time he begged Ram.
Didn't Ram tell him that also he's an animal? Okay.
Oh, excuse me, one of those things, well, because I said about killing for that, I just wanted to make sure. We had a friend in Oregon who actually did go and kill somebody who stole his wife, or who his wife cheated with him. So I wanted to just say that. Don't take the law into your hands. You have to have a disclaimer. So one of the other reasons, Ram said, as far as I'm concerned, you are an animal. You are a monkey. You are a wild beast in a way. And he said, and as a Kshatriya, if there are any wild animals hurting other living entities or causing harm to them, then it is my duty to rid the forest or the kingdom of that. So because he was doing harm, because he had stolen his younger brother's wife, kidnapped her, and all of these different reasons, Ram said, it was my duty to kill you, and Vali accepted. So he begged Ram, there's only one concern I have. Please, you should take my son under your wing, and you should love him. You should care for him. I'm worried what will happen when I leave, when I die. So Ram promised him, I will love him as my own, and Sugriva will love him as his own son. He made that promise, and then Vali left. So Angada was, well, actually Sugriva was crowned the king very quickly after that, and Angada, the son of Vali, was the crown prince. So he was treated with love and affection by, well, maybe not affection, Sugriva was quite heavy with him, but at the same time, he knew that he was in a very safe environment. He was a very strong, powerful warrior, no less than Vali. So they did the crowning. Now, it was coming to the time of the rainy season, and Ram told Sugriva, I'm just worried about the time. Don't just take time.
Yeah, because it's too, just relax.
Okay. So Ram told Sugriva, the rainy season is coming, and so for 4 months until the time of Kartik, after Kartik, he said, we will have to stay in one place. He said, so go rule your kingdom, and Lakshman and I, because we have been banished to the forest, we won't enter your kingdom. We will stay in the cave where you once were. So for 4 months, Ram and Lakshman stayed there, and they lived like hermits. When those 4 months were over, actually quite after those 4 months, Hanuman became concerned. He was seeing that Sugriva forgot his promise to the Lord. He was becoming drunk, basically continuously enjoying all of those comforts and all of those pleasures that he didn't have for so many years. Now he had his wife Ruma back, but he also had Tara, and he had so many women in his harem, otherwise known as harem. He had so many women, and he was enjoying and enjoying. He was not even maintaining his kingdom. He had Angada doing everything, and Hanumanji and all of his ministers. He was always and only in his harem. So one day, Hanuman entered there, and very carefully he told him, you are the king, and it is not my duty to come and tell you what to do, but you have accepted me as somebody like a minister. So it's my duty to remind you. You made a promise to Ram. Now you have forgotten everything, but you made a promise to him. You can't forget your promise. So even though he was drunk, he kind of opened his eyes a bit, and so he gave Hanuman the order, you should tell Angada to go and to send like emissaries out all over the world, wherever there is anyone under my domain, all of the monkeys and even bears, everyone, go out and tell them they should be here within 15 days or I will kill them. And then he went back to drinking and being with his women. So Hanuman immediately went to do that, but Ram and Lakshman were becoming upset. 4 months, Ram was in separation from Sita. But before I tell this, I just wanted to express a little bit of a lesson. Because when I was reading about Sugriva forgetting his promise, I know that so many times when we come to the lotus feet of Sri Gurudev, we make so many promises. In front of the fire, in front of the demigods, in front of everyone. We're making so many promises. My Gurudev, you are my life now, I'm surrendering to you. We make so many vows. We don't even know. We're pouring ghee and throwing rice into the fire, and mantras are being chanted, but those are vows that we're making. We're making so many promises to be dedicated, to make our life successful. That is why our Guru has come. I don't want you to maintain your worldly existence. Why? It is only suffering. It is only suffering. 1 drop of happiness and the rest is complete suffering. We can just look around us and see it. It's clear everywhere. And even if it's not physical, it's emotional, it's mental, it's all kinds of adhyatmic, adhidaivik, adhibautic. All of these kinds of threefold miseries are continuously being pressed upon us. It's like being drowned. Our Gurudev would say, your head is underneath the water and you're being drowned and drowned. And you come up, like the king or Maya pulls your head up for 1 second. That means some enjoyment. I can breathe. Oh my God. And then back down. That's what samsar is. And so we make all these promises to the mercy form of Krishna. Krishna Krpa Shri Murti. He's moving and walking in our lives. He's given us the holy name of Krishna. He's done pran pratishta of Krishna in our very hearts. He's given us relationship with Krishna. He's given us our Mangala Sutra, our neck beads. He's given us everything, and we make these promises and we forget. We become enjoyers, bogies, thinking that this world is for my enjoyment, eating everything and is an afterthought, offering it to the Lord, maintaining my life so sweetly. I forget, I chant my rounds, I do my mantras, I do little things, but where is the urgency? Where is my conviction in what I promise that I will do? We become complacent. So I was thinking about that today, especially remembering because I was rereading this, and I was thinking, I'm like this. We become like this when we're suffering, when imminent danger is there. Oh, please help me. If you get rid of this disease, then I'll worship you forever. We hear about this at the time of Saraswati Thakur. Kishori Mohan Prabhu told about that person. If Gauranga is real, then he should heal my daughter. We put so much. Yes, I'll do everything for you. I'll make all kinds of beautiful things, and I'll do all kinds of yagyas, and I'll tell everyone to worship you. When we are suffering. And then, when everything is good, we forget, we become drunk. Like Sugriva became drunk and forgot everything. We become drunk in this material world, in Maya, and we forget our promises. So this is a lesson, at least what I was seeing, it's a lesson. We have made promises to the mercy form of Krishna. Like Sugriva made promises. They did a fire yagya. They made this. I'm bound to you. We've done this with the mercy of Krishna. But we forget and we become complacent. In the back of our minds we know, yes, I made a vow. I should be serious. Tomorrow I will do more. Tomorrow I will be stronger. Tomorrow I will begin reading. I will chant more rounds. We always think we'll do it later. So in this instance, Sugriva was very fortunate because he had someone who is a good friend, someone who was looking out for his best interest and also the interest of the Lord. This is a real friend who comes to remind us, don't forget your promise. Don't forget Krishna. Don't get lost in all of the Kali Yuga propaganda of this world. We're all dying, and we're all rushing towards the jaws of death at every second. Some may go today, some may go tomorrow, but we are all bound for that destination. And so a friend is one who reminds us, don't become complacent, don't lose your life. So Ram, I've come to remind you, chant your Harinam, chant your mantras, the sweet pastimes of Krishna. So Lakshman has been spending 4 months, long months, trying to console Ram. He is separated from his own Shakti. It's impossible, but it has happened. And now he's sitting in one place for 4 months, and Lakshman is continuously trying to give him solace. Finally, after all this time, Ram starts to become upset. He said, now that he is enjoying, Sugriva has forgot his promise to me. And Ram starts saying, I'm going to go and I want to, basically, I will kill him if he doesn't fulfill his promise. He was supposed to be my friend. What is a friend? A friend is someone that sees your difficulties and sees them as Mount Sumeru. Like this, they're the biggest thing to them. He has forgotten these promises. So he told Lakshman, go there and tell him. And immediately upon seeing this, Lakshman, who is quickly angered, became so angry. He didn't even think that he would be able to speak to Sugriva, he told Ram, I will go there and I will kill him. And Ram became upset. He said, wait, I shouldn't have shown my anger in front of you. Sugriva is our friend. He's just forgotten for the time being. Go to him and first give him this message that he has forgotten me, that I am his friend and he is bound by a promise. First remind him, and then you can threaten him if he doesn't want to comply. So Lakshman took his bow and he went there to, Kishkinda. So going there, he's just about to enter into that beautiful city. And so many monkeys are there, monkey warriors, and they see him. And they start like guarding the place. But they see that Lakshman's eyebrows are very knitted. He's angry and he's biting his lower lip. He's so angry, and he is definitely like his eyes are going to burn the world. They became frightened and they ran to Sugriva and told him. Sugriva was so drunk, he didn't even pay any mind to it. He couldn't understand anything they were saying. So the ministers, without understanding, they sent out all the warriors to come and to block Lakshman from coming. And Lakshman became so angry. At that time, Angada came there and he didn't know what to do. Seeing the anger of Lakshman, his mouth, his tongue was tied, and he just put his head down and he went to the feet of Lakshman. Lakshman immediately blessed him. He said, take me to Sugriva. So immediately he was brought into the palace. Going into the palace, he was brought into the harem. And going there, Lakshman was feeling very shy and insecure. He didn't like being there. All the women were drunk. They were somewhat naked. And Ram wasn't used to being like this, so he was averting his eyes.
Lakshman.
Who did I say? Ram? Sorry. Lakshman. Immediately, Angada went and was trying to rouse Sugriva. Wake up, wake up. Lakshman is here. He's angry. He started waking out of his stupor, but Lakshman was hearing all of the music and the sounds of the women, and he didn't like it. So he took his bow and he twanged the string on it, and it basically made like an earthquake vibration. Immediately, Sugriva understood, oh, things just got real. Immediately, he came to his senses and he became afraid. So he sent Angada and Tara out to not to console, to pacify Lakshman. Please, make him a little bit gentle before I come in front of him. It sounds as if he's ready to kill me. So Tara came out, and she came out in an alluring way. Anyway, she somewhat pacified Lakshman, and at that time, Sugriva came out, and he asked for forgiveness. Yes, I became lost in all of this enjoyment. Who couldn't become lost in it? Please forgive me. And then he told Lakshman, a few days ago, I sent word out that within 15 days, all of my warriors have to come here. Otherwise, they will be killed. And at that moment, many warriors had just arrived, and Lakshman saw that it was true. So he was pacified. And then he blessed him, and he was soft and compassionate. He told Sugriva, you should come and you should speak to Ram. One thing I forgot. Did I forget? Yes, I forgot, and this is really important. When Ram and Lakshman met Sugriva, and they were speaking about what had happened, and Sugriva had told them that it was Ravan, and that he said, actually, I saw Sita. She was screaming, Ram and Lakshman, Ram, Lakshman, help me. And she was trying to get away from him. She saw us. And when she saw us, she ripped some of her cloth and put some jewels in it and threw it toward us. He said, I have that, and I've kept it very carefully. Immediately, Ram said, go and get it. Make haste. Don't waste your time. Show it to me. Sugriva immediately went to the cave and then brought it back. And Ram immediately saw that it was a piece of like yellow silk that was from Sita's favorite headpiece. He opened it up and he couldn't see. He was crying because he recognized it as being Sita's. So he was crying, and he said, Lakshman, my child, Lakshman, because the older brother sees the younger as like their own children. He said, "Beta, my son, please look and see. My tears are clouding my vision and I can't see clearly. Do you recognize these jewels as Sita's?" And he looked and he said, I don't recognize the earrings, and I don't recognize the ring. I don't recognize these pieces of jewelry, as I have never looked past her feet. But I recognize her ankle bells, because every morning the first thing I would do is offer my pranam at her beautiful lotus feet. So I recognize the ankle bells to be hers. I think that's a very important part that I forgot, and I would feel very bad if I didn't tell that. So Ram had these, knowing that that was actually Sita who was taken.
That's one of the reasons why it hurt his heart so much that she was accusing him of accompanying them to the forest in lust after her,
right,
because he had never even looked beyond her feet. He didn't even know what her face looked like.
Right. And this is also another lesson, and that is that throughout the Ramayana it is actually very clear that you should not look upon another's wife, or let's say a husband, as in a lustful way. It is against dharma, and it's considered to be very, very lowly.
Technically, a brahmachari should never look beyond a woman's
feet. Yeah.
So when they're speaking like that, so that it doesn't incite lust in them, out of respect, just seeing that all are mother, but not even looking above their feet.
Yes, and this is, I believe,
and especially sannyasis also.
Well, especially, but I think this is one of the reasons. I shouldn't say I think. Srila Prabhupada wanted everybody to call the women. You even see within ISKCON today, they'll call a little girl Mataji, but it's to show that kind of honor and respect. In Indian culture, it may not make sense, if someone sees a 10-year-old little girl and a man says, Hare Bol Mataji. But actually, it is a proper conception when it's someone's daughter or something like that, to call them according to that mood. But Srila Prabhupada was instilling this, that you should see all women as mother, as Mataji, so it should not incite any other idea in your mind. So it's actually very beautiful. So Lakshman told Sugriva, "You should come with me and you should pacify Ram. He's very upset and in deep separation. You should come and tell him." So they went on a palanquin and they went to where Sri Ram was. Going there, in Tulsidasa's Ramcharitamanas, Ram smiles at him quite indulgently. He looks at him really like, "What have you been doing?" And then he starts to tell him that a king should follow dharma. They should follow artha. Yes, Ram is telling Sugriva, and he said, "Kam is there, but you shouldn't become lost in kam like this." So Ram in lust. So he started teaching him. And at that time, more and more warriors started to accumulate, and immediately they started to make preparations. So when everybody was gathered and all of the warriors from all over the world had come, they started to send out, they made groups of 4, and they sent them out in all the directions, search parties. So the parties were going to different directions, and Angada had a party of his own. Within that party were the most powerful warriors, like Jambavan, like Nila and Nala and Hanumanji. All of the most powerful were in the army, in the search party that were going south. Because Sugriva said, "I know that she was taken toward the south, so this group has the most probability of finding Sita." But he told all of the warriors before they went out, if you don't return within, I think it was a month, maybe one of you can say, maybe it was a month. If you don't return within the allotted time, then you will pay with your life if you don't have any news of Sita. So it was life or death to find her. He said, "I made a promise to Ram that we would find Sita. That promise cannot be broken. So on pain of death, it will be that this promise is broken." So they all went out in search. And because Sugriva had said that, "I know that this party," and he was giving particular emphasis on it to Hanumanji. So at that time, Ram also took Hanumanji aside and he said, Hanuman, I feel peace when I'm with you. I feel elation and I feel like everything will be all right when I'm close to you. So I know that you will be the one to find Sita. And so he took off his own ring that had his name engraved on it. And he said, this is how she will know. This is the praman, the evidence that you have come from me. This is how she will know. And at that time, Hanuman took the ring, he folded his hands and held it above his head. And then he went out with the search party. When they were going out on this search party, if they would see any rakshasas or any demons, it is said that they would just slap them and they would fall down dead. They were going through, they were jumping in trees, they were going everywhere. When they would see any rishi, it is said that this search party would completely surround them and try to get any information from them. So as they were going, they were very, very jovial and happy and excited, we will find her. But after the time allotted that they were to find Sita was coming to an end, and they had reached the end and they didn't know what to do. They had been traveling for a very long time without food and there was no water. They were becoming despondent. And at one point they saw, I think it was Hanumanji, he saw that there was this like cave that was going down, but birds were coming out of it. And he thought, why are birds coming out of there? It must be that there's water or something there. So they all went there and it was pitch black. But they went in there and they found their way. And in there they found water. And there was like a demigoddess sort of personality, a Mayak personality who was there. And she facilitated them. They were given refreshments. And then she said, actually, if anyone enters this cave, they never find their way out. But if you close your eyes, all of you, I will bring you outside of the cave. So she did that. And then she immediately went to the feet of Ram, had his darshan, and left to do sadhana. She was actually relieved from being in that cave. So many histories, I'm trying to not go too in detail. Finally, as they're searching, they're refreshed and they're thinking, where will we find her? Where is Mother Sita? They came to the edge of the ocean. Going there, they were completely like, they lost all hope. We don't know, we've come to the end. There's nowhere else we can go. They sat down. Angada thought, you know what? We're going to be killed either way. If we go back and we haven't seen Sita anywhere, if we go back, we will be killed by Sugriva. I know he has something against me because I'm the son of Vali, so surely he will kill me. He said, I've decided that it's time to sit down at the edge of the ocean and we should just give up our lives. Jambavan and Hanumanji were kind of like, I'm not so sure about that. But anyway, he was becoming very despondent and they were having this conversation. At that time, there was a very huge, like eagle or vulture. His name was Sampada. And he heard, oh, they're going to sit down and they're going to give up their lives right here. And he started speaking to himself. He thought he was speaking quietly because he was quite old. He was speaking out loud.
It's a little hard of hearing.
And he started saying, oh, it's been so long since I've had a full belly. It's been so long since I've eaten to my fill. And today, look at this. They're going to sit out here right in front of me, and as they drop dead, I will be able to eat them. This vulture didn't have any wings. So he was so excited that he had all of this food about to be prepared. It's about to be prepared on its own. So he was very happy. And the monkeys looked up and they're like, oh, what is this? He's going to eat us. But as soon as Angada saw this vulture, he started remembering Jatayu. And he was saying, oh, how fortunate was Jatayu. He was able to fight Ravan, and he was able to give up his life in service of Ram. Ram and Lakshman actually did the last rites for him, and look at us. We're going to die here just on the edge of the ocean, hopelessly, and be eaten by this vulture. At that moment, the vulture became very upset, and he called out to them, "Oh, please, please bring me close to you. I have heard that you have called the name of my brother Jatayu. I haven't heard his name for eons and eons." He actually said, "I was there at the time of Vamandev. I saw him. I've been here since almost an eternity." He said, "And since that long I haven't seen my brother. And now I hear that he has died. Please tell me what has happened." At first the monkeys were a little bit afraid, and they were like, "We're not so sure. He's going to eat us." But then they saw that he was actually truly in separation from Jatayu. So they came close to him, and he said, "Please tell me everything about my brother." And so they told him about Ram, and they told him about how Jatayu had fought so bravely and how he ultimately lost his life. So he told the Vanaras,
Yes.
"Please take me to the edge of the ocean so I can offer some last rites for my brother." And so then he did that. And then he gave his history. And he said that one time, he said him and Jatayu used to have competitive sports. And one day they wanted to see who could actually come up to reach the sun. And as they were flying up, Jatayu became fatigued, and he was being burnt by the sun. And at that time, I took my wings and I covered him. But because of that, my wings were burned off. And when we fell to the ground, we fell so far apart we never found each other again. He said, "Since that time, I have been here." One rishi, he wanted to give up his life, but one rishi said, "There will come a day when Ram, the Lord, will be searching for his wife, and you will give them, the monkeys will come and they will be searching for her. You will be able to give them this message. At that time, your wings will again appear." And as he was speaking, his wings appeared, and all the monkeys were like, "Oh!"
What did he say? What did he tell them?
He said, "My son one day was late bringing me food because I had no wings. There was no way I could get food on my own. So my son one day was late, and when he came to bring me my food, I was chastising him. And after listening to me chastise him, he told me that he saw something extraordinary. He saw a Rakshasa in the sky carrying a beautiful woman who looked like a streak of lightning. She was calling for Ram and Lakshman, and she was being taken to Lanka, which is in the middle of the ocean. At that time, my son was about to protect her, but Ravan stopped him and said, "I have no issue with you. It is my right as a Rakshasa. I can take any woman I want. You should stay out of my business." He said, so having no problem, no qualm with him, he just left him to it. And he came and he told me. And then he said, "I cannot offer anything but these words. This is all I have left to offer is my voice, to let you know that my eyesight is so great that I can see, basically I can see into any distance. As we are sitting here, I can see Sita with my eyes. I see that she is there in Lanka, and she is weeping and waiting for Ram to come to her." Everyone became so happy. Everyone, actually it said they started jumping up and down and kissing their tails. They were so happy. But one thing I wanted to interject here with, because I thought it was so absolutely amazing, it brought something to mind. And that is, one day, not one day, many times, Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Goswami Maharaj used to say, "I am so old. I now can no longer offer so much service. I can't serve in all the ways I used to serve in my youth. All I have left is my voice. All I have left is the capacity to tell Harikatha. And so he would always be so grateful and thank anyone who would come and hear from him, because this was the only seva he had. And when I was reading this, I remembered Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Goswami Maharaj and his grace on us. The fact that he wasn't able to do anything else kind of meant that he was many times stationary, and he would be in one place for a long amount of time, and that afforded so many devotees to be able to come to him, take shelter of him, hear from him, and feel some sort of solace due to separation from our Gurudev. So we got to have that pacification of being in the vicinity of such a great, powerful Vaishnava who was using his voice in the service of Hari Guru and Vaishnava. So when I read that about Sampati, about how he was... Sampata. Let me see, I wrote it down. Sorry, I haven't been looking at my notes, which I should. Sampati. Yes. He said, I have only my words that I can use in service. So I remembered Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Maharaj, and we all have this capacity that we might not be able to do much. We might not be able to be going out and doing so many things. But if ever we can tell someone about Krishna. We can tell someone the holy name. We can share that we know a place called Vrindavan. You know, Shamarani Didi always name drops. I've been in classes with her where it's all kinds of new people. And it's like she's talking, I don't know, she's talking well over their heads. They might not understand anything, but she is giving so many names of our acharyas. She's talking about the names of Krishna. She's talking about Vrindavan and Govardhan. Vaishnav names. She's just trying to give so many impressions to these people, even though they leave completely bewildered. They leave thinking, wow, we met someone extraordinary.
We were at a program once.
We were at a program once, and the sannyasi was speaking all kinds of really high harikatha. We were even like, whoa. Kishori Mohan, the sannyasi, told Kishori, you speak now. After he was speaking, like very high manjari bhav. And he's like, we may as well speak of the goal, so let's do this. And he did it, and we were like, these people have never even chanted before. So then he asked Kishori Mohan to speak, and Kishori Mohan had to bring it to this highest conception all the way to Jeev Tattva, which is also a high conception, really. But, you know, so,
step it down.
You know, in Maya, in karma, in reincarnation, he had to start bringing it to the basics. And so afterwards, when the sannyasi left and we were taking prasad and we were with all the, but we were with all of the guests, I said to one of them, so what did you think of the lecture? And she said, you know, I don't know anything that he said, but she said, I feel like I met Yoda. I met Yoda. I met like a teacher who will enlighten me. And I just started cracking up. It was so funny. I mean, this is like the external vision of somebody who's the first time coming in contact with Krishna consciousness. And she loved it. And she was just like, I met Yoda. Okay.
Back to Sampati.
So this about Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Maharaj, it's a very great teaching for all of us that Sampati, he heard about the greatness of Jatayu, who's like a general in the army of Ram. He went and he fought and he almost even defeated Ravan. But Sampati couldn't do that kind of thing. He's the elder brother, he's ancient.
But he had no wings.
And he had no wings. He had no way to serve. But he was able to use his voice in seva. And his eyes. It's a very powerful message for us that we can use everything we have, even if it's only very small, in the service of Hari Guru and Vaishnava. We can use our energy, whether it's through our eyes, our ears, our nose, our mouth, our complete full bodies, our intelligence, our hearts. In every way, we can use everything in the service of Gurudeva and Krishna. You want to say anything?
No.
You okay? Okay. So, now they're all rejuvenated, kissing their tails, jumping up and down, so excited. Because Sampati actually said, I see her. So now, Sita has been seen. They know that she's there. And now they're thinking, we've been sent on a mission. We have to go and find her. So they were all discussing, how are we going to get across the ocean to Lanka? It was like 1,000 miles or something away. And they were all talking about their strengths. Jambavan, I think it was Jambavan. I think, maybe wrong. But Jambavan was saying, oh, I'm old now. But when I was young, when Trivikram appeared in this world and expanded himself so much so that everything was covered by his footsteps. He said, I circumambulated him 7 times.
Wow.
He said, but now that I'm so old, I don't think I can even make it to Lanka. So all of them were saying, well, I know that I can make it like 50 yojans away, but I can't make it 80 or 100. All of them were boasting about their strength. Finally, Angada came and he said, I can make it. For sure I know I can make it there. But I'm not sure I can make it back. And also being there, what will I encounter? I don't know. So I don't know if I have the strength. Jambavan saw that Hanumanji was not a boaster. He was sitting by himself, just listening to everyone. And Jambavan went over and said, oh, Hanumanji, why are you so silent? I know that you can cross over there. I know that when you were a child, you went and tried to eat the sun. I've heard about you. I know about you. I know that you can make it there and back. This put enthusiasm in the heart of Hanumanji. And he said, yes, yes, I can do it. I will go and I will find Sita and I will come back. And he said, everybody should stay here, eating roots and fruits and waiting for me. Wait till I return. And then he asked Jambavan, is there any specific thing that I should do? Should I bring Sita back? Should I just finish everything? And at that time, Jambavan said, no, you shouldn't do anything. You are only a messenger. So you should go there. You should meet with Sita and you should come back and deliver the message to Ram. That is the order, is that we should find her, nothing else. So Hanumanji, okay, I will go. So he climbed up to the top of a mountain and he became very, very big. As we discussed yesterday, this is one of the 8 mystic siddhis. Sometimes you can walk on water because you become so light. You can fly in the sky. You can make yourself smaller than an atom. And you can make yourself larger than a mountain. So many of these siddhis are there. Hanumanji has all of them. So at that time, he started to expand himself and became very, very large. At that time, he went down on the mountain with his hands and his feet so that he could push off. As he was about to push off, he again told everyone, I won't return until I find her. And then he, with a scream, he just roared, ah! And then he pushed himself off. The mountain was pushed down. Elephants were screaming. Snakes were vomiting. And as he was flying in the air, the description is so incredible that all kinds of huge trees were all flying with him because his push-off was so hard and the momentum was so fast that as he was flying, trees were ripping out of the mountain and were flying with him. And then they were falling in the ocean like so many beautiful offerings of flowers to the feet of Hanuman. Hanuman was flying through the air, and all of the demigods and devas, they were, oh, look at him. Look at what he's doing. Everyone was celebrating. But at that time, the mischievous demigods, they called upon one demigod and said, we want you to go and test him. Actually, before this, Varuna, he called on one mountain, Menaka, Menaka had been, it's a long story. Menaka, this mountain, the goddess of the mountain was put into the earth, or god of the mountain, was put into the ocean. Long story about mountains flying. Indra cut off their wings. It's
Really quickly.
Oh!
Mountains.
Come here.
Okay. Wow. How did it get like this? Okay. So, Srimad Bhagavatam tells this history. Mountains. And I don't know if it's all mountains, but definitely some. If you've ever driven in Switzerland, those mountains have energy, personality, heaviness, and there's something about them. It's like they're almost alive. So, anyhow, according to the Shastra, previously, so many mountains were alive and they used to fly. And when they would land, sometimes they would land and crush entire villages or whole cities. And so many complained, and Indra used his thunderbolt to chop off their wings. So many of these mountains that used to be able to fly had fallen down to the earth. And so this is a history. Sometimes this is a difficult thing to consider. But if a monkey warrior can expand into a massive, massive size, or become smaller than an atom, or if he can jump 1,000 miles in a single leap, or if Durvasa at the speed of mind can travel being chased by the chakra of Vishnu from place to place, bouncing off, going to the ocean and mountain caves, and from this planet to that planet to this planet to that planet, Brahmalok and Shivalok, and all the way to Vaikuntha at the speed of mind. There's so many things that are possible that in the past no one could have imagined. If you would have told someone 100 years ago about the technology we have now, you might have been put into an insane asylum. I mean, it was just, who would have thought 100 years ago that you could be look, it's a video of me, live streaming.
200 years ago, airplanes.
Airplanes.
When we hear about vimanas, we're like, what?
That are carrying hundreds of people, thousands of miles across the ocean, that you can travel in just a few hours. And cars and all of the things that we just take advantage of. That moving pictures in 3D with 3-dimensional sound can be sent through space and be captured on another side. It just doesn't compute. And so what we take advantage of now and take for granted in the past could have never been understood or accepted. And the same thing goes in the reverse as well. Mountains used to fly. And we're looking at it like, no, it's not possible. But our Shastric history tells us that they would fly, and they were massive, and they created a lot of difficulty. In fact, one of these mountains crushed the demigods and the demons in a massive battle. And Lord Vishnu himself lifted it up and glanced upon all of them and brought them back to life. So one of these mountains whose wings had been chopped off ended up in the ocean. That is Menaka. She had previously been a goddess who...
Was it a goddess?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay.
Who had to take that form of the mountain. So now Sudevi will come and continue telling the Katha.
Did I turn everything?
If planets can fly, why not mountains? Nice.
Who said that?
Maybe Krishna Premavati's response.
No, Jiva Pavana Prabhu.
There you go. Yep. Yep. Planets are just floating out in space. There's so many impossibilities that are actually possible. Here.
So Hanuman's flying. He's going toward Lanka. And at that time, Varunadev, because somehow or other he's connected with the ancestors of Sri Ram. And so he sends Menaka, Hanuman may get tired. You have to lift yourself out of the ocean and make yourself available so that he can rest on you. Yes, so that he can rest and then jump again. So as Hanuman is flying through the air with this great momentum, he sees this huge mountain coming up and he becomes somewhat upset and he tries to get it out of his way. And immediately the personification of Menaka came and said, please accept this as a place to rest. I've been sent by Varunadev to give you a moment's rest. And Hanuman said, not now. I can't now. I'm on a mission. And so he brushed his hand across the mountain like in a mood of thank you. And he kept flying. Then the demigods, back to the mischievousness.
Are you still talking about Menaka?
No.
I just, at this point, as you were speaking, I thought, what a beautiful lesson there. That even something coming to give comfort or a little rest, but if one has their mission, and am I?
No, that's it. One pointed. It's written. Speak it.
If one has their mission, their focus, and their one-pointedness, then they can't afford to delay. Don't delay. Don't take that time to rest and relax. Something else might stop. Let me focus and let me do my service unimpeded.
He actually said, I'm so busy right now, I don't have time to stop. I need to go on. And so, yes, I wrote here one-pointed because it was so beautiful how Hanumanji had no desire to take a break or to waste time. He was on his mission.
Hey, Yogini.
So then this, the demigods, they said, let's test him. Let's see, his prowess. Let's see what he will do. So they sent one personality down to take the form of like a demon who was really, really huge, and to expand her mouth in such a way that she would eat Hanuman. So she did it, she or he. She did it, and she was there. She said, anyone who comes here has to come in my mouth. They have to actually, enter through my mouth. And Hanuman is like, look, I'm on a mission for Lord Ram. If you want this, I'll come back. When I'm done with my service, I will come back and I will enter into your mouth. Yes, I'll do it. She said, no, to get past me, you have to enter my mouth now. So then Hanuman was trying to get around her, but she made herself bigger and her mouth bigger. At that time, Hanuman became bigger. And they had this kind of competition where they were getting bigger. So immediately Hanuman made himself so small, went inside her mouth and came out. And he's like, are you satisfied? And she started to laugh and said, yes, you have won. And then she went back and all the demigods were like, oh. And then there was another demon. Hanuman killed her. She would stop anyone from coming over the ocean, even birds. Hanuman killed her immediately. And then he landed. When he landed...
Where?
Lanka wasn't just a palace. There was mountains and there was, it was
so
huge.
he landed in the
yes, because the battle didn't happen necessarily in the city. So he landed outside of the golden city of Lanka.
Okay.
He landed on a mountain. And he made himself quite small. And he was just looking at Lanka and completely astonished by it. Its grandeur and its beauty. It made entirely of gold. So he thought, if I go in there, I will be seen. So he was waiting until the nighttime came. Waiting and waiting, he was just thinking of Sita and of his service to Ram. Finally, it became dark, and the moon was out, so he was able to see. And he started going toward the city of Lanka. It is said that he made himself, not at this time. Anyway, he wasn't too small or too big. He was quite normal. And he was walking and trying to come into the city. As soon as he was about to enter into the city gates, a demoness appeared. Her name was Lankini. She was like the protector of Lanka. And she said, stop. Anyone who comes through these gates has to come through me first. Who are you? What are you doing here? How did you even get here? You have no right to enter. And Hanumanji said, oh, I just want to look around. It looks like a beautiful place. Just want to see the sights. And she basically challenged him. Now that you have even tried to come in, I'm going to kill you. And she came toward Hanuman and she slapped him. Hanuman became fierce and angry and he punched her. And Tulsidas says, but he held his anger back because she was a woman. Even though she was a demon, he held back. He didn't hit her with full force, but she fell back. And then immediately she got up and she folded her hands. And she said, when Ravan was given Lanka, Brahmaji told me that I have to be here and I have to guard Lanka from anyone. He said, one day a monkey will come.
She said? Oh, Brahma.
Brahma said, one day a monkey warrior, like a Vanara, will come and he will defeat me easily. And when that day comes, you should know that the end of all the Rakshasas has come. And she said, so now you can enter. I'm leaving. I'm gone. And she left Lanka forever.
So Lanka was unprotected.
Lanka was unprotected. Tulsidas says something really interesting here. He says that Hanuman took his first step into Lanka with his left foot. And it was explained that when you enter into any enemy's camp or country or home, that generally you enter with your left foot. So Hanuman, seeing that that Ravan was an enemy, that he stole what belongs to Ram, Sita Devi, for his own pleasure. So I remember Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he said that Lakshmi is meant to be used in the service of Narayana. That like Ravan tried to take Lakshmi, Sitaji, and use it for his pleasure. And then he brought it to us. He said, when we have money, when we have any kind of opulence, if we don't use that in the service of Narayana, if we don't use it in the service of Krishna, of Ram, he said, then we are actually being like Ravan, trying to take the energy, the Shakti, the Lakshmi of the Lord and use it for our own enjoyment. So I just wanted to share that. So Hanuman enters and he begins to search around. He sees 7-story palaces everywhere he looks. And he's going in and out of it's made of gold. I said that, didn't I? Gold, and the pillars are inlaid with precious stones and diamonds and pearls. It's explained so beautifully how opulent it was. Finally, he enters the biggest, most extraordinary palace, and he understands this must be Ravan's. Because it was the dead of night, and no one could get in Lanka because Lankini was there. All the guards, everybody were just resting and sleeping. Nobody was worried. So he walked into the harem of Ravan, and he saw Ravan lying there. He was stunned. When he saw Ravan, he saw that he was so beautiful. He was so strong. He was massive, and he was incredibly handsome. That he had scars on his body from Indra's thunderbolt. He was looking at him in astonishment. And he thought the only problem with him is that he is an adharmi. He is against dharma. He is an aparadhi. And so he looked at him and he realized this is kind of not the place I should be. And as he was looking around, there were all kinds of extraordinarily beautiful women in all sorts of state of undress. They were all drunk and like drugged and lying around and swooning. And Hanuman was looking at each one of them, seeing if one of them was Sita. And as he was doing it, because he is a brahmachari, he stopped and he thought, am I making some kind of a dharmic thing myself, looking at the wives of Ravan? And then he stopped and he thought, no, because I have no attachment to them. My mind isn't thinking of them in any lustful way, and I'm doing it in service of Ram, trying to find Sita. And so then he went back. He's like, okay, I'm okay. And this is very important, checking ourselves. When we are doing anything, we should always try to see that our Gurudev is next to us. Would I behave like this if my Gurudev were present? Would I speak this? Would I have this kind of activity in my life if my Gurudev was standing next to me? What is going on in my mind? Krishna's in my heart, Sri Guru's in my heart. They know. I might be able to give lip service to Thakurji and think I'm fooling them, but they know everything. They know. So we should take some self-assessment. Hanumanji is showing this. He's there. He's in the middle of doing seva. He's in Ravan's palace, the most dangerous place to be. Did you hear the way I said Ravan? Like he did in that Ravan. He's in his palace and he's looking at all of his... But he's thinking, am I engaged in service here? Or am I engaged in service but doing something else? So he took some self-assessment, like Gurudev said, checking your pulse like an Ayurvedic doctor. What sickness is there? Hanumanji was doing this. What a great lesson for us. Hanumanji realized Sita wouldn't be there. But then he saw on a bed, separated from all the other women, the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. He became so happy. It is Sita, it is Sita. And it is said that he grabbed his tail and started kissing it. He was so excited. It's Sita, it's Sita. And he came closer and he was looking. She was so extraordinary. It was like she was beautifying the whole palace. He was looking at her. I found her, I found her. And then he thought, no, Sita would never, ever be here in the palace of Ravan. How could Sita sleep? Sita would never be able to be comfortable in sleep or to speak of being in the same place as Ravan. No, this must be his principal queen. And he immediately turned away and started searching for Sita. The next thing he saw was a beautiful palace that was like a mandir. He thought, maybe she's there. Going toward this beautiful mandir-like palace, he saw that tulsi was growing everywhere. And then he saw these beautiful paintings on the wall, and they were of Ram's bow and his arrows. He recognized them. He thought, what kind of a place is this? This is Lanka. This is the place of the enemy. And my Lord's bow and arrow, the symbol of them, they're being worshipped, and Tulsi is here. He was looking around, and then he actually thought, what's going on? And he looked, and he saw immediately a very brilliant personality was waking up. It was Vibhishan, the youngest brother of Ravan. And immediately upon opening his eyes, Ram came out of his mouth. Hanumanji, he saw him and he thought, this person is somebody that I have to know. I have to come close to him. And he was speaking it out loud. I have to go to him. I have to make friends with him. He is certainly someone who will be very dear to me. Because he was speaking out loud, Vibhishan looked over and he saw Hanumanji, and immediately he offered his respects to him. He said, are you like a different form? Hanumanji took the form of a Brahmin. At that moment he took the form of a Brahmin because he wanted to approach Vibhishan. And Vibhishan looked at him and he said, are you Naraji? I get such a feeling of happiness within my heart as though I've met my long-lost friend. Are you Naraji? Are you Narayan Rishi? Are you a messenger of my Lord? And Hanumanji is like, I'm here on behalf of Ram. I've come to search for Sita. And at that time, Vibhishan began to tell his tale of woe. Oh, Hanumanji, you don't know what it is like for me living here amongst all of these demoniac persons. This body is also that of a demon, but my heart is always centered on the lotus feet of Ram. When will that day come when I will see him? And then he began to glorify Hanuman. He said, it is never by chance that you come in contact with the holy messenger of the Lord. The fact that you have come here to this place of his enemy and you have come into my own home, it means that the Lord himself is gracing me with his mercy.
Reminds me of
Loudly.
Sarananda.
Say it.
It just reminds me of the story of Sadananda Swami, the disciple of Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, who was from Germany. And during the Second World War, at that time India was run by controlled by the British. And so they took all the Germans who were in India and put them in concentration camps. And there was one other young German person who had been searching everywhere throughout India. He was learning all about Indian culture.
And Mayavad. He had a Mayavad guru.
Yeah, he had a Mayavad guru. And he felt like he'd learned everything, but the one thing he didn't learn about was love. And he wanted to know about that. And
he prayed for it on Janmashtami.
On Janmashtami evening, he was there. He heard everyone chanting the names of the Lord outside of the prison and outside of the concentration camp. And he prayed on that night, please, I want to know about love. And it was almost like the very next day, wasn't it?
It was the very next morning he got up.
The next morning he got up and he was looking out of the fence and someone came up, or he saw somebody who was German but was dressed in Indian robes.
He didn't know he was German. He saw a Western sadhu.
And immediately that Western sadhu just started speaking to him about love. In a concentration camp.
In German.
In India, during the Second World War, stuck because you're both German in the concentration camp set up by the British. And then he was hearing from this person about love. And that person was the disciple of Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, who was speaking to him in German about pure love of God.
It's an impossibility, but he can make the impossible
Vibhishan
possible.
was in the same situation.
Yeah.
He's stuck in the prison camp of Ravan, surrounded by demons, and he has no access to any devotees or anything, and he's
a minister, yes, and he serves his elder brother.
And then, out of causeless mercy, the Lord himself sends his messenger to his place, and so he's completely...
This is actually extraordinary, because when he woke... What? Yes. When he woke up and he said, Ram, Ram, because he was speaking the language of Hanumanji, Hanumanji recognized him immediately. And this is also another lesson for us, that we will be able to recognize devotees by what they speak. It may be that we have all come to the shelter of Guru to different and greater and lesser degrees, but by the speech of our family members, we will understand who is really the friend of our heart, and who is someone we want to associate with, and who are our family members who we understand we should keep some distance from. It's a very important point. What we speak, what we are putting out into the world, these are all symbols of what is going on continuously in our minds. And by the time it comes out, it means this is what we're meditating on, this is what we're constantly thinking about. So when we come in contact with Vaishnavas, we should immediately try to associate with the devotees so that the devotees will recognize you want to be a devotee of Krishna. You want to have that kind of association. This is what happened with Vibhishan. He was praying to Ram, when will that day come? I can never give up the service of my brother. It's my dharma. I have to do this. There's no possibility of ever meeting my Lord. And there, Ram's messenger, Hanumanji, entered into his palace. So, yes. Oh. Okay, so we're just going to get to the Ashokvan and then... So, Hanumanji told Vibhishan, I'm searching for Sita Devi, and can you tell me where she is? I've been searching all the palaces. And Vibhishan said, actually, she's in the Ashokvan. He told him, I've told Ravan so many times that he has to return Sita, but he won't listen. It's like he's become a crazed person. So Hanumanji left him, and he went to the Ashokvan. Going to the Ashokvan, this beautiful place, in Ashokvan, it is said that when a very chaste woman is there, then all of the Ashok trees, they will flower. And so there were flowers everywhere, very beautiful, fragrant, and it was Ravan's favorite garden. Sita wouldn't stay in the house with Ravan, so this is where she was staying. Hanumanji made himself very, very small, and he perched himself in a big tree, and he was looking, spying everywhere, and finally he saw Sita. She was surrounded by all kinds of rakshashis. They were all asleep, but he saw her sitting there. She was sitting kind of down, looking at her feet, and she had a ripped cloth on. She wasn't eating anything, and tears were continuously flowing from her eyes. The description is so painful, and Hanumanji is going through all these things in his mind about what she is deserving of. Just looking upon her, he could see that her devotion to Ram was unsurpassed. It was the topmost devotion, and how she deserved the greatest, most magnificent of everything. And there she was sitting on the ground, weeping for Ram. So Hanumanji was thinking, how am I going to approach her? If I mess this up and I frighten her and I can't get a message to her, what will I tell Ram? So, and if she makes a lot of noise, if she sees me and gets afraid, everyone will wake up and I won't be able to speak. So as he was thinking, how do I approach her? She's the wife of my Lord. She is my very mother. How will I approach the great Sita? Dawn was just rising. The sun was coming up. And at that moment, Ravan woke from his sleep, and the first thing he thought of was Sita. All he wanted was Sita. He wanted to have her as his own. So immediately he got up, did his morning rituals, and he went to the Ashokvan. Going there, he was surrounded by so many of his women, including Mandodari, his wife. Sita could hear the commotion coming and the heavy footsteps of Ravan. And she took her cloth and started trying to cover herself, like trying to disappear. Whenever Ram is speaking about Sita, and also Hanumanji is seeing her, and it is said her eyes were like frightened deer, and she was looking in all different ways, and she was so afraid. At that time, Ravan came in, and he said, "Oh, beautiful one, why are you reduced to sitting here? Give yourself to me. Don't you know there is no way Ram will ever find you? He knows nothing of this place. And even if he did, there's no way he could get here. You have no hope of ever being reunited with him. If you give yourself to me, I will make you my principal queen. Even my wife Mandodari will be your menial servant. All my queens will serve you. Give yourself to me." He actually talks about her hair. Her hair was in like a matted braid because she hadn't done her hair in a long time. And it was in one braid going down her back. And Tulsidas explains why this is. When a woman is separated from her husband, it is said that she wears her hair like that in a plait down her back. I didn't know that back then. Some kind of Vedic thing. So her hair was like that, and it was like, let my queens adorn you with fine clothes and jewels. Let them serve you. Let me feed you the most beautiful things. Let me have you as my principal wife, my queen. At that time, Sita picked up a piece of grass and threw it next to her. In one of the Tulsidasa's Ramcharitamanas, it says that at that time it made Ravan feel like you are nothing to me but a blade of grass. And then it also in another one explains that in old Indian culture, a woman would never talk to another man without having some, someone with them or a go-between.
That wasn't even only in ancient Indian culture. That was also in Western
Yes.
culture only 100 years
Yes,
ago.
yes, in the 1800s. Yeah.
In Europe?
So she also did this to put distance between them. And then she began to, even though she was so frightened, she began to ridicule him. And she compared him to like a glowworm and Ram to the sun. And she herself was like a lotus. And she said, how can a lotus ever bloom in the presence of a glowworm? Ram is like the sun and you are nothing. And she started saying, you have created within your whole dynasty doom. You have ruined your family lineage, the name of all of them. You will be put to death. And he grabbed his sword. He was so angry. How dare you compare Ram to the sun and me to a glowworm? So he took his sword and he's like, I should cut your head off. How dare you speak to me like this? She said, yes, either your sword will be around my neck or the arm of Ram. I will accept nothing else. And so Ravan became so angry. He thought, okay, then fine, I will kill you. And he went toward her, and Mandodari stopped him. Oh, don't worry about this. Slowly, slowly, she will come to her senses and she will bend to you. And she was saying, come with me. Let's go now. Let's enjoy. And Ravan said one last thing. He said, I will give you 1 month. Some places it says 2 months. But I will give you only this allotted amount of time. When this time is over, I will have my cooks chop you up and eat you for my breakfast. So, I don't know if I should talk about the curses of Ravan now. No? After. Okay. So, after he had left, he told the Rakshashis that were guarding Sita, by any means you make her bend to my will, threaten her, scare her, treat her nicely, whatever it takes, make her bend to me. So they all started going around her, pretending they were going to kill her. They were saying they would eat her. They were performing Maya tactics on her to scare her. And she was frightened beyond belief.
Yeah, now, why couldn't Ravan just...
I'm going to do it tomorrow.
Okay.
And then one of the Rakshashas, one of the Rakshashis, that actually was like a bhakta, she had this mood of friendship towards Sita, and she stopped the other Rakshashis from frightening her. And she kind of consoled her and said, don't worry. And she told all the Rakshashis about her dream. She had a dream about Ram coming and saving Sita. So she was telling them, be careful, this isn't over. So she pacified Sita, who wanted to end her life. She was happy for Ravan's sword. So then everyone's pretty much left her alone. And at that time, Hanumanji thought, now is my chance. I should come close to her. So immediately, he dropped Ram's ring in front of her. And when she saw the ring, she recognized it immediately as being Ram's. She grabbed it and turned her back away from where it came from. And she was looking at it. And within her mind, she was thinking, there is no Maya that can conjure up this transcendental sign of Ram. And how would Ravan or any of them know it? Because they hadn't seen him. And so while she was thinking this, Hanumanji, who can sing and speak so poetically and so beautifully, his voice is like honey. Even Ram and Lakshman were completely transfixed when they met him because of his speech. Using that incredible power of speech, he began to recite the glories of Lord Ram. Sitaji had her back And so she didn't know who it was. She was just listening to the glories of Ram, and she became so, so happy. Finally, Hanumanji saw that she was becoming somewhat like pacified and calm. And as a very small, sometimes it says like the size of a kitten, he came down and came in front of her.
Like a really little monkey?
Really little. And he came in front of her and he told her, Sita, my name is Hanuman and I am a messenger of Ram. He is in great distress without you and has sent me to search for you. So she asked him, how is it that a monkey warrior, a Vanara, became friends with a human being, my husband Ram? Can you please tell me your history? So she began asking for praman. How do you know him? What does he look like? Because Hanumanji already knew what Sitaji looked like. He was looking at her. And at first it was hard for him to recognize her. Tulsidas says, because Ram only saw Sita, who was happy, who was picking flowers, who was always ready to serve, who was always equipoised, but always happy. And when he saw Sita, there was not a trace of that happiness. She wasn't glowing with that kind of, I'm with my beloved. She was like shrunken. And so he couldn't recognize her, but slowly he was seeing, yes, look, it is her. So today, I am going to end the katha with Hanumanji meeting with Sita, because after that becomes a whole chaotic...
It's going to turn off in...
Yeah, so I'm going to end here,
Okay.
because then
There's a lot more.
it goes a little crazy after this. But Hanuman begins to talk to her, and he relays a beautiful message from Ram. And she was so happy to hear the message, but within the message, Ram is telling how he's in such separation from her and how he feels that he can't go on, but that he's coming for her and he's looking for her. And so she's elated, but then when she hears of his sorrow, her heart is breaking. So then she gives a message to Hanumanji to give back, and she tells something that only her and Ram witnessed. That one day Ram was lying on her lap, his head was in her lap, and a crow came and started scratching at her. And it scratched her so much, I'm going a little quickly, but it made her bleed. And blood, some drops of blood fell on Ram, and he woke up and he saw that blood was coming from her from scratches. And he said, what happened? Who did this? And it was a crow. Ram became so angry, he took one piece of kusha grass and invested that with the mantra of a brahmastra, and he threw it at the crow. And the crow went flying away, because it wasn't an ordinary crow, it was a demigod. And it was going all over the universe, going to everyone for help, just like Durvasa did with Ambarish and Chakra. So he went everywhere, and everyone's like, I can't help you, I can't help you. Even he went to Brahma, because it was the Brahmastra, and Brahma was saying, I can't do anything. This was sent by Ram. He went back to Ram, please forgive me. I was making havoc and I did this, but I'm actually a demigod, and I'm begging for forgiveness. And Ram said, once I've cast something, if I've spoken something, it must come to be. I do not lie. And if I throw an astra or an arrow, it has to go to its target. He said, so I will take your eye. And so he became blind in one eye, assumed his demigod form, begged for forgiveness, and left. So she told that to Hanumanji, and then she told another story where there was one, like a rock that had color on it, and Ram put water on it and took some of that pigment and put it on Sita Devi, and they were playing
Like
together.
Govardhan?
Yes.
Where you can rub the rock and the color comes right out of
Yes.
it. Wow.
And they were playing together. And she said, tell him those things. He will know that it's from me. And then she took one, like a hair ornament that she wore at her wedding, and it was given from her mother. And she said, Ram will know that this is mine. He will recognize it from our wedding day. And so these were the things that she wanted, her praman, so that Ram would know that this was Sita herself, that he had something from her, and also those private moments that only they knew.
What was the evidence that she requested from Hanuman?
What he looked like. One of the things was, how did you meet? What did he look like? What was he saying? You know, she wanted to know all the details of everything.
So that she could trust him.
Yes.
So this is also like for us in terms of our relationship even with Guru. We question and make sure that we can trust fully first.
There has to be praman.
Fully open the heart.
Yes. We need evidence.
Right.
And then Hanumanji, after some time, he told Sita Devi, I came all this way. And actually, he said to her that, you know, I will take you. If you want, you can climb on my back and I will take you to Ram. And at first, she was a little bit like, well, you're really tiny. And she was sort of concerned about Ram and the tiny monkey army. And Hanuman was like, what? And then he grew really, really big. And she saw, oh, you're not like a tiny little pygmy, you know? And so then, you know, she said, oh, I didn't know. And she told Hanumanji, what will that do for the glory of Ram? Basically, she wanted Ram to get the glory of saving her, of defeating Ravan. This was against Ram. And so Hanumanji, and because also Sita could have killed Ram with the glance. Ravan, with the glance. So then Hanumanji said, okay, now that I've come, I want to ask you, Mother, I've traveled a long way, and I saw within this beautiful garden, there are so many really nice, sweet-smelling fruits. Please, can I take your permission to have them? And immediately she was calling him my son. She immediately felt that he was as dear to her as her own child. So she was, yes, you should go, refresh yourself, take anything. And so then he started going and eating so many fruits. But as he was doing that, when he was full, something came to his mind. He thought, I need to see this army so that I can go back and explain to Ram what they are like, how fierce they are. I want to see their strength. So he started destroying the garden, lifting up trees, throwing them to the ground, smashing rakshasas as he was doing it. They were coming and trying to fight him, and with one blow he would hit them and they would fall dead. He made so much chaos and havoc, knowing that this was Ravan's most particular pleasure garden, where he would come and sit all the time. So he loved this garden. And then he went up on the walls of the garden and watched everyone running here and there and running to Ravan because he was waiting. He wanted Ravan to send out his toughest generals so that he could test their prowess. So he just sat there waiting and watching all that he had done, very proud of himself. And Ravan, when he had heard that his pleasure garden had been destroyed, it is said that tears came to his eyes because he loved that garden so much. And immediately he started to send out his warriors. So we will continue tomorrow. And I think there will be a war. Don't know. I think we've come to that point.
Whoa.
So.
Okay.
All right. I think I've come. I just want to make sure I got to most of those. Okay. Okay. So I've spoke the things that I wanted to say. If I've made any mistakes, please forgive me. You can let me know, and I will come back tomorrow and try to retract what I have messed up and give the proper praman. And thank you so much again for giving me this wonderful and amazing opportunity to remember these beautiful leelas of the Lord. And Hanuman Jayanti is on Monday, Devaki Didi said, and tomorrow for us is Sunday. So probably we will do Love and Kush on Monday, a little bit of that, and then go into the glories of Hanumanji So that
We're going to need a couple more days at least.
we'll see. But we need to get to the glories of Hanumanji on his day.
What day is that?
Monday, she said.
No. Well, it doesn't say it in our calendar. I'm going to have to do some research.
All right, we'll do research and find out. But Devaki usually holds a big festival that day, so she knows. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much, my dear, lovely, beautiful God family, dear Vaishnavas. Thank you for your mercy. Thank you.
Thank you for your mercy.
Praman. I said Dandavat Praman.
Because we've been discussing evidence so
Dandavat
much.
Pranam.
We're going to have close-up darshan of Thakurji in just a minute.
Yeah, don't leave without close-up darshan.
Close-up darshan.
Close-up darshan.
You know, I couldn't help myself when I was hearing Sudevi speak about Hanuman eating all those fruits and jumping from tree to tree. He was so excited in the adventures of the great King Ram. He was very excited. He was making a lot of noise, jumping from tree to tree.
Let's do the story tape from when we were Gurukulis. So she says, Sita says, take this nectar fruit also to refresh yourself. They grow on trees all over the garden. Then Hanuman takes it, and what does he do? I could eat lots more of these.
And we just loved it. And as he was just swinging from tree to tree, eating all those sweet fruits and making a big ruckus, he was so happy. So, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Guru Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaur Hari Bo. Jai Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Gurudev. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Premanande,
Hari Hari Bo.
Gurudeva ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai, Pratik Pavana Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Prem Purushottam Shachinandana Gaur Hari ki jai, Radha Vino Bihari Ju ki jai, Radha Ramana Ju ki jai, Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Harinama Sankirtana ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande.
Hari Hari Bo.
Govinda Damo Madhaveti,
Govinda Damo Madhaveti, Govinda Damo Madhaveti, Govinda Damo Madhaveti.
Bolo Radhe Radhe Radhe, Jai 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 Shri Radhe.
Radhe
Radhe Radhe, Jai 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 Shri Radhe. Radhe Radhe Radhe, Jai 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 Shri Radhe. Shri Vino Bihari Ju ki
Jai 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 Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Sham.
Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bo.
So
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to remember the beautiful teachings of our Gurudev and our Guru Varga, and especially on this particular subject of the pastimes of Sri Ram and his dear associates. Also, we would like to express our deepest appreciation and indebtedness to each and every one of you for daily giving us the opportunity to follow the order of our Gurudev, which is our life and soul. We look forward to being with all of you tomorrow and continuing this beautiful katha. Dandavat pranam.
Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Radhe Radhe.
Radha Vino Bihari Ju Sachinandana
Gaur Hari ki jai. Jivriyamo Damani. Hasta mañana. Kal milenge. Radhe